Remember this day, man, for it will be yours for all time.
We have shown them that a trembling hand can become a fist. We have challenged the idea that a slave must always know his place, accepting rod and lash because he was taught to accept it. We built their mighty republic with our hands and our blood and our lives. And we can see it fall at equal cost. You opened my eyes to this, Spartacus.
Let's wind the clock back 2 years. These ideopolitical extremists, not creating but repurposing franchise, would not listen to any fan. And what did they do? They served us, force-fed us incompetent Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who, not because these chameleons of false virtue were trying something edgy and new, but because their fringe ideals and preferred extremist Twitter blue checkmark versions of racism and sexism was held as a higher priority than honoring the legacy and lores that came before them. These socially destructive aberrations, these bigots of mass virtue, these self-important, insanely wealthy ideologues, the bullies of yesteryear, have not a single connection to the geek and nerd cultures for which they have been given the keys to drive what we have loved into the ground. They have no attachment to it, no love for it. They do not care about these properties, legacies, characters, legends, mythos that we, the geeks and nerds of decades past, cherish as the escapism from the bullies' throttling abuse. We were not members of the in-crowd. We were not the popular kids. We were the outcasts, the rebels, the misfits, coming together in comic book shops, playing Dungeons and Dragons, to engage in competitive gaming before it was the cool thing to do. We were the original cosplayers, fandom event organizers, and we did these things not only for the love in our hearts that we had for Doctor Who, Star Trek, or Star Wars, but to respect the creativity of those who imparted their visions to us as escapism from the mundane, to evade the bullies who mocked us for liking the things that we love. Now these false creators, these repurposers, these bullies of yesteryear have taken control of the games, comics, television, and movies that we have loved and supported for decades, some of us for generations. The sole intent for these heartless propagandists is to use what we have adored for most of our lives as a platform to espouse bigotry, segregation, division, and hate. They mocked us, used the mainstream, access media, and spineless cuckold shills to weave false narratives about us and once again set to shame us into obscurity from the very escapist entertainments, the very modern mythologies, the very bastions of inclusion that we once called our fandoms. But we have been here before. In older times, we have suffered this type of ostracization and abuse. Were we not once the outcast in times of old, the rebels, the misfits? Out of these dark times in our pop culture, after the obscenity of CBS All Access Star Trek, the mockery of Christian Bale's Doctor Who, and the complete and utter degradation and disrespect of the single greatest hero in science fantasy, Luke Skywalker, all of these intentionally open insults to everything we have loved for decades, these hateful, crass, disingenuous social justice bigots set about defaming, labeling, attacking if we dare have anything to say about it. They use their weight in the media in an attempt to bludgeon us into capitulation. If there were those who would not kneel to this onslaught of false virtues and fake narratives, these men and women who showed us the way, who stood up and raged against the machine, who put themselves, their professions, their companies, and their families at risk to be our voices in this war for our modern mythology. Across the ether of disenfranchised fans came voices independently, yet in unison, from Anna that Star Wars girl to President Abu Nas, from world-class bullshitters to Midnight's Edge. Those who have supported and adored these modern myths cried out against the perversion of what we love. And the geeks, gamers, nerds, and comic book enthusiasts came together and formed a new bastion of free thought and expression for what we love. and the Fandom Menace was born. Without respect, we reject. We do not bow to social terrorists. When the industry tells us to like it or leave it, stand up, my brothers and sisters, and shout, we do not kneel. Hail the Fandom Menace.
Bluffed him, I'd done everything. Beat him up basically for about 5 or 6 rounds. I thought it was easy. Then about the 6th round, he whispered in my ear after I'd hit him in the side, "That all you got, George?"
And never talk about who's gonna stop me. Well, ain't nobody gonna stop me. I must be the greatest. I took up the world. I took up the world. I told you, all of my critics, that I was the greatest of all.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. Persians! Give them nothing, but take from them everything.
Hail the chat! Thank you guys so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you. Please remember that if you have a voice and you want it heard, if you are tired of all these propagandists in Hollywood, in politics, if you are tired of the flying monkeys, the blue-haired weirdos, we're going to get into those tonight, them Twitter mobs, people that come at you and hate you, that project racism, project sexism, project all their nasty shit onto you. If you are tired of that, make your voice heard. Create a channel. Doesn't matter if it's YouTube, Rumble, whatever the case may be. Get your voice out there. We stand together and we do not kneel. Hail, my brothers and sisters. How you doing, guys? If you're on Dragonstorm right now, you're getting a taste of what I used to do. I am author Stephen Walton, the Fandom Menace Historian, and tonight, I should say, we are going to be going through narcissism in Hollywood, Disney, Star Wars, Lucasfilm, narcissists who use the media, the access media, flying monkeys, the Twitter mobs, the blue-hair weirdos, the progressive activists, in order to project their own racism, to project their own isms, their own hate onto us, the fans, to get their negative fuel. With me to talk about this tonight is one of the original Fandom Menace, the original fourth wave, one of my brothers of Rogue Entertainment, ladies and gentlemen, the savage himself, Immortal Coil.
One of God's own prototypes, a high-powered mutant of some kind never even considered for mass production. Too weird to live, too rare to die. You are listening to the throat of Immortal Coil, Patal. Revolution is my name. This video contains copywritten content, however, under the Fair Use Act, Section 504C2, Title 17 of the United States Code. This content is presented for the purposes of education, entertainment through the use of parody, satire, critique, analysis, and/or social commentary by means of subjective opinion. Viewer discretion is advised, which means put your kids to bed. It's time for the grown-ups to talk. What's going on, buddy?
Let me unmute. What's going on, brother? How are you?
That was a fire of an intro, man. It really kicks you in the pants, and I'm really impressed with what you came up with there. You had a little bit of everything, and some deep cuts there too, man. You had to have been around since before the dark times, before the Empire, to really get all that shit. Yeah.
No, we both were. We've both been around this game for how long? Been streaming for years. That's why I was like, I'm still muting, but I'm still muting. I still got mute on when I'm trying to do an intro. Like that's a damn shame. We're trying to talk. That's some rookie shit. I'm still doing rookie shit after all these years. Guys, please subscribe to Immortal Coil. We do a show every Saturday, early Sunday, 11 p.m. Pacific time, called Savage Spirituality. Coil, tell everybody about our show.
Yeah, dude. So we basically are a pair of individuals who have pierced the veil, and though we've walked different paths, we hold a lot of the same kind of knowledge. And the two of us bouncing off each other, we go deep, like real deep, through space and time, through different universes, different dimensions, stargates, whatever you want to call it.
Thrusting deeply.
Yeah, as hitting the back wall, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. No, I mean, every now and again we push rope, but I'll tell you what, you could have 13 strong and I could be pushing rope and Walton will still have a stronger stroke than you. So we got this. Every week, guys, please check out Immortal Coil. Link to him is pinned. His channel is pinned in both my channels. I am multicasting right now on Dragonstorm and author Stephen Walton. So for my Dragonstorm audience, what I used to do was a lot of entertainment commentary, political commentary, fighting for our modern mythologies. So for some of you guys, you might not have known that this backlash existed. It was a fairly big backlash. It caught the attention of Hollywood, major news publications, CNN, Fox. It caught the attention of to the point to where progressive writers, like really whacked out nut jobs, were trying to silence, dox, destroy the reputations of several people, and like Coyle and I were a part of that, along with some of our best friends. Enter the Unfamiliar, use Final Death Star, Sporking News Podcast, Bear Nerd Fun, and people like CJH out there. Hail CJH. We're going to say hail to chat in a moment. And thank you very much, CJ, for becoming a new member. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you to everyone who supports my channel. But this backlash was caused by narcissists in Hollywood. And I mean, anybody who's been following what's going on in the Hollywood music industry, what Nickelodeon's done, what Disney has done, basically, for lack of a better term, Luciferian acts that take place, the peddling of children, the destruction of lives. These are people who have no souls, who have no empathy. They do not care. And a lot of their tactics were narcissistic. And I was unaware of that until I was a victim of sociopathic abuse. So I didn't really understand what narcissism was or sociopathy. And having gone through the gauntlet, done this material, done this content for so long, I now can look back at people like the hate Twitter mobs that we're gonna go through some of the statements that these flying monkeys, these progressive weirdos, the extremists. And mind you, I grew up liberal. I come from Philadelphia, from liberal Philly. I'm a witch from liberal Philly. I'm more centered now. But like these were traditionally the people that I did support. Like Clinton voter right here. Like a Obama voter right here. And it wasn't until, oh my God, like the great bathroom debates, Gamergate, Comicsgate, Fandom Menace, these movements that were exposing the use of entertainments as a vehicle, as a platform to espouse sociopolitical rhetoric, to gaslight fandoms, to customers, fans, to use smear campaigns against fandoms, to use their flying monkeys, their people with disorders running around with blue hair and cutting their balls off or cutting their tits off, and destroying society, destroying the fabric of society through the platforming of mental illness on a grand scale. And of the backlash that took place to it. For those of you guys that author Stephen Walton, you all know what I'm talking about. We're going to be going through some of that tonight. And Coyle, do you have any opening thoughts on the myriad of shit I just said?
Yeah, that's quite the thesis. This is actually the culmination of things that began in the 30s in Nazi Germany. They had a propaganda minister. You may have heard of him. And he realized that visual media and auditory media can create a reality inside of people's minds, and one that's not necessarily congruent with ultimate reality. We were talking about this last night on the stream on my channel, but it was thanks to Nazi Germany that we had the pitch of A switched from 432 megahertz to 440 megahertz, because it takes you out of sync with the Schumann resonance, which is the natural resonance of the earth that we all vibrate with. Everything that was born and lived here vibrates along those frequencies. If you go and listen to music that's tuned to 432 hertz, it sounds completely different than what you're used to. Mm-hmm. But anyway, they took these tactics, and there's a little thing called Operation Paperclip, right? After we destroyed Germany, we went and started picking through their intelligences, and we started bringing over scientists and people like that. And ostensibly it was to work on our rocket program, which was totally a cover-up program. The real space program is a lot different than that. But amongst those ideas, they started getting up to the upper echelons, the Majestics, the 13 families, that kind of thing. And they realized that in the same way that the masses of Germany were hypnotized, they can apply that to the world at large. And especially as technology has gotten more and more advanced, we went from things like War of the Worlds on the radio broadcast, which sent panic and fear, which is what they want, all the way up to, through the 80s, practical effects, which look kind of cheesy now if you think about how the Terminator looks, through to now where we have like CGI that can pretty much do anything. And I'll tell you a secret, they use it more in the news than they do in the movies and entertainment. All that shit's a program, and it is nefarious. Essentially, you have possessed people possessed by entities that are not of our realm, that are trying to push through an agenda of fear, because that's what they sustain themselves with. Love is a foreign concept to these guys. They can't even vibrate with love. Like, it's anathema to them. It actually hurts them, to tell you the truth, which is why, like, the 60s, like, the hippies were made into Charles Manson kind of thing and forgotten, largely swept under the rug.
It's like galactic psychopaths.
Absolutely. Wearing human skins. The movie They Live is a lot more accurate than you guys realize. I mean, well, probably not you guys listening to this broadcast, but the people who in your family who think you're weird. It's more than they realize. But yeah. So aside from those things, they practice a type of black magic that's familial. It's blood ritual. A lot of it has to do with terrifying children to the point of death and then consuming them one way or another, either carnally or digestively, or
the gold juice. Are we talking about the gold juice?
Yeah, that thing that I'm not sure that we can say on YouTube.
Of course we can't. Yeah, of course we can't. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. It's the stuff in the brain, right? Which is another movie, I forget what it's called, from the 80s, where there was a alien who was running around trying to take a certain drug out of human beings and sell it to like intergalactic society. Somebody in the chat probably knows what it is. If you do, throw it in the chat. But yeah, so the main enemy of this cabal is the mass, like the human biomass on the planet. We are, like, at this point between 8 and 9 million strong, and there's only a couple 100,000 of them, and these are the blue bloods, the people who think that they're the heirs to the gods with a little g. So one of the tactics that they're using is they're using media to promote, to foment fear and separation, number one, but number two, to put forth this idea of us voluntarily becoming reproductively unable. I had a college word for that, but it slipped out as soon as I was trying to think of it.
You've already embarrassed the author with like 8 words.
Inviable. That's what I was trying to say. But it's interesting. So out of all that came our group of channels, which we're going to fill you in on in a second. But more than that, it's reached a critical mass of late, especially with that South Park episode. People are waking up and they're starting to push back, and we've actually had some real entertainment the past few years, some real positive stuff. I was just watching The Avatar on Netflix, and it is very faithful, very respectful to the source material, and very emotional. You know, I was kind of expecting like an M. Night Shyamalan ding dong kind of treatment, but like this thing completely like wipes it under the rug and says, yeah, don't pay attention to that, the same way the Ghostbusters did. So if you guys, there's only 5 episodes up so far. If you guys want to take the ride, it's just as good as the cartoon, Yeah, it's just as good as the cartoon.
Yeah, and if one of us has recommended Cuties flicks, it's a serious thing. That's Cuties. That's another thing we could get into when it comes to the sexualization of children using these platforms like Netflix, putting out something to make our kids more accessible to perverts. But before we get into that, we want to talk about another pervert, Snow Dub Music and Entertainment. Hail Chan's fat.
There he is.
Snow Dub is in the chat. If y'all don't know Snow Dub Music Entertainment, that's another person just like us, came up in the Fandom Menace era, the fighting for his. Snow Go kind of goes along the same track as me, like where I wanted to share Star Wars with my son. We had shared the Clone Wars cartoon. Him and I were very much into that. That's kind of, we bonded over that. He liked Anakin. I like Darth Vader.
Except for the Martez sisters.
Well, yeah, but we went to go see The Force Awakens, and it was like, what is this jumbled mess of shit? Why what happened to the expanded universe? Why doesn't this look like Star Wars? Why is it was like a remake of A New Hope, but with a girl, and Kathleen Kennedy is the main actor. I don't get it. Mm-hmm. But Snow loved Luke Skywalker. His son loves Star Wars. He began watching that, much like any of the other fatties. And he, his way to combat that was by puppeteering. Actually, he created this man through dedication, through not giving up, not quitting, created an entire YouTube sphere of people who all do puppeteering. They're funny, they're intelligent, they're witty. Please check out Snow Dub Music and Entertainment. Hail,
Snow
brother.
Dub is like Jim Henson's middle finger. I'm telling you guys. Yeah,
he absolutely is, man. And hashtag bring back the frog. If you're out there, K-Log, we want you back. But yeah, I just want to say hail to him. Please follow him, guys. If anybody could throw a link out for his channel in the gender check in the chat. Let me see, Snow. Let me see if you got let me see if you got a wrench there, buddy. Say something nice while I'm looking for Snow Dub. Where'd he go? I don't see him. Oh, here he is.
He's there.
Jim Henson's middle finger. He liked that one. I'm giving you a wrench, bro.
Sticker. Put that on a T-shirt, man. It would be. What we should do is that picture of
wrench.
Johnny Cash throwing up the bird. You should Photoshop Jim Henson's face right on there. He's another guy that was kind of done dirty by retconning too, because the Muppet Show in the 70s and the 80s were really sophisticated humor, and they attracted like top talent. And then, they were taken over and cutesified and turned into something that they really shouldn't be,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They're retconning our childhood and then trying to pass it on to our kids and saying like, yeah, this is what your Pa watched back in,
But they're retconning it with it's not even just that it's a poor quality. They are retconning it in most cases with the objective of confusing genders, confusing roles, confusing, pushing politics, pushing forced diversity, which is just racism. That's what the Ku Klux Klan was doing, but now it's okay because, another group does it because they vote a certain way. Before we go into
does it.
Don't get on that. Don't mention Hillary Clinton. Don't get on that kill list, bro. Right. Epstein didn't kill himself. All right, so guys, let's say hi to the chat. First, I want to say thank you again to CJH very much for becoming a channel member. I appreciate you, brother. Lots of old streams and a couple videos that I have out for my channel members. If you guys want to check that out, because I'm done bitching about you know who. So you can look at those. They're all in the members section. But I also gave you a wrench, brother, if you want to put that out. And I'll be looking at your statements here shortly, but I wanted to say hi to some of the people that helped Dragonstorm become what it is now. Deborah Cohen, thank you so much, sweetheart. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you. And every time you're here. Lady Virgo was with us. What's up, Lady Virgo? And she says she does listen at 4:32.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's enlightened. We got some enlightened cats.
Yeah. If you guys like Mozart, listen to his G minor symphony at 432 hertz. It will shatter your emotional field.
Yeah, so Lady Virgo also says my soon ex-husband, Narcissist, the sociopath, currently has his hair cut like Hitler. Well, I mean, you got to have heroes. Everyone should have a hero. All right. I don't like like I said, but then again, Hitler was a Taurus. I don't identify with him. And there's a couple of Tauruses up here.
Well, he represents the dark side of Taurus.
Yes.
Both you and I are Tauruses, and we represent the light side of what a Taurus can be. You have to realize in astrology, there's like lesser evolved and greater evolved aspects. And Tauruses have their dark side too, man. We can be like lazy and self-indulgent and thoroughly sex obsessed and, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time,
and closet gay and abusive and, bad. Negative Tauruses be like,
she likes these dudes who are like, and turns them gay.
I also tried someone who did what I did, and I turned them basically. So like
you turned a guy.
I told you it was my ex. Like I f***ed him until he became something.
Bro, what did you just say? I just said bust what on my face? Nah, bro, that's still gay. No, you're gay. He's gay. I'm not gay. He's gay.
Negative Tauruses are tricky things, and you gotta watch out for them. Clown them if you have to, especially if they're narcissistic. Thank you, Lady Virgo. What's up, RR? Hail, brother, hail the chat. Savage salute out there from RR.
Hail RR. Loyal soul right there.
Greatly. Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for being so supportive, and send Bear a kiss for us. All right, we should have Bear on sometime. It's a fourth wave show. What's going on? Yep, that's yep. Wish we could talk about it.
You're missing a few syllables at the end there, but you got it.
Yeah, but we appreciate it. Thank you for not, That's right. Born in the chat, sir. The Fandom Menace Historian. There's Snowed Up out there. Jim has his middle finger, y'all.
That should go on a t-shirt, man.
Did he throw his link out there? So CJH got a new channel out there. Please go subscribe to him. He's another great old school cat. CJ, could you throw a link out for Snowdub if he has not? You have a Taurus moon, Virgo? Yeah, Virgo.
I have a Scorpio moon.
You should, hit me up in the DMs sometime. I like them a little broken. So we all come from a broken community. Let's do this. Not crazy. My ex, the Gemini rising. Geminis are always twisted.
Yeah.
Geminis are twisted.
Especially female Geminis. I don't get along with them very well.
Libras are great lovers. Just want to state that. Libras are great lovers.
They're very often the center of attention in the room, unless a Leo's around.
Thank you very much. That's Snowed Up Music Entertainment, guys. If you are unfamiliar with his channel, please check him out. Support all the wonderful people over there, and it's good to have Snow in the chat. It's good to see Snow in the chat. So tonight, let's get into a little bit of this. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with what kind of chronologically what happened. And I am the Fandom Menace Historian, by the way. I got a book out called The Fandom Menace Volume 1, A Fandom Betrayed. I'm currently working on The Fandom Menace Volume 2, Rise of the Rebellion. I am late with it, but I've been working steady every day. And this book will come out. It's going to be, most of this book is going to be documented experiences from people who went through this time from about 2018 till about 2020. I'm looking forward to present that to you. Snowdub will be in that book. I have to get the interview schedule with him. And so basically you had this event that took place. Real quick overview. You had this event that took place that was called Gamergate. Remember Gamergate there, Immortal?
Oh yeah. That was like the first thing that really was controversial within the geekdom.
Within geekdom, right. But just before that, there was this event that took place that Obama, Obama and Mike wanted to get the bathroom debate. They wanted to
Big Mike.
Big Mike, yeah, the big old Big Mike in the quarter test. They wanted to, because of their personal relationship, obviously, just say we got a first man. Just say there was a first man. What their objective was to shame people who did not interact or know transsexuals, transgenders, I guess is what the term is now. And so they began this proxy information destabilization in society, where they brought up a topic that affects less than 1% of the world population, or it did at the time. Less than 1% of the population, gender dysphoria, and they thrust this very small minority.
They sure did.
Thrust it with a very high suicide rate into the forefront of a debate, and shamed people for not wanting their daughters to go in a bathroom with a grown ass man in a dress. And when you have something that's fucked up, mortal. When you have something. When you have something that's like really misunderstood, and a Christian that has a large Judeo-Christian, a population of large Judeo-Christians, population that don't want to understand it. Like gender dysphoria is, I wouldn't want it. Like, I know what gender dysphoria is. I've known transsexuals from when I was growing up.
Well,
I knew one.
They've existed throughout time.
They've existed throughout time, right?
They're trying to force a certain type of them and say that that's how it is when it's not.
Well, and I think that when it came to the Obamas, like with this, the Obamas who also have Black Lives Matter, which is a racist militant group, in the White House, after we swore not to have, racist groups in there again.
Thanks, George Soros.
Mind you, I voted for Obama twice, by the way. Coming to the realization that these things took place, that these were the objectives of politicians or people or actors or producers that I supported at one time it was a big shock. But, so like going back, but they created this bathroom debate to create a false fight, to create an argument. Society was getting along. They wanted to test the waters when it came to
racism was damn near solved in the 90s.
Damn near solved.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, after 9/11, I've said this 10 times, I'll say it 100 times more. After 9/11, right after 9/11, which is an inside job, you had people treating each other like human beings. Like racism, you're right. Racism over those years was practically gone. Like the white guilt aspect had been kind of like wiped away. There was only like a small groups of, idiot white people hitting themselves over the head or, put themselves.
There's always going to be
chains.
Pockets of idiots that
always.
That's colorblind.
Yeah. When you had but that was like a testing ground. It was a testing ground just to see like how it would be handled, and people were outraged by an outlandish proposition, that affects less than 1% of our population, of the United States population, and threatening. Basically, it was a threat to their kids, a threat to their family and their nuclear family, and the way that they look at, the way that they look at morality. Like, I'm sorry, if I had a daughter, I would not let my daughter go into a bathroom with a dude in a dress. Like, that's just not, that's just a natural reaction.
I won't. No.
Right.
I'd take her into a men's stall and like shut the door, honestly.
So when they did this, they moved on to, they moved on to protecting a narcopath, a narcissistic sociopath by the name of Zoe Quinn. Zoe Quinn was a woman who was trading sexual favors to 5 different publications, gaming publications. She was an indie game developer, trading sexual favors for positive reviews and things like that. The response from, now her boyfriend, Eon, I think Eon was his name, Ejon, is her boyfriend put out like a list of all the texts, all the proof that she had been cheating, that she had been trading favors, all this stuff. Like, he put it all out, right? He was done with this narcopath. He put out all this information. What did the people who were guilty do? The people who were the publications. The publications circled the wagons and created an argument that people were getting on Zoe Quinn because she was a woman in gaming, and it was misogynist gamers. It was a smear. 30-year-old man babies living in their mother's basement because they're racist and hate women. That was the gaslighting. That was the smear campaign that ensued from narcissistic people in the gaming journalist community to protect, a woman who was giving them all head, or a lot of them head. And that once they realized, there was an entire backlash to that too. It's the first chapter of my book, A Fandom Betrayed, goes into all of this. And I wish I probably should go back and re-edit a little bit, knowing what I know. But so you had entire groups of fans who just wanted to play a video game, because while this was being pressed, while this narrative that all gamers are men and sexist and racist and white. That was like a blanket statement, a smear campaign that basically told anyone who wasn't of European descent, anyone who wasn't straight, that they didn't exist. And the narrative behind it was they were fighting, the game journalists and the Zoe Quinns and the Anita Sarkeesians were fighting for equality. They were fighting to bring other races in. They were fighting for racial equality and all these things. Complete falsehoods, narcissistic projections and falsehoods, while smearing. And at the same time, in order to sustain the misinformation, they were changing games. They were changing characters. They were changing these things to suit their progressive narrative, to suit the narrative that, God, let's talk The Last of Us 2. Let's talk about The Last of Us 2. Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, with that man chick.
Yeah, talk about, do you want to say a couple words about that?
Well, and I'm not a gamer. I actually stopped playing video games regularly around 2005. The last game that I really got into was Revenge of the Sith, actually. Where you don't get to kill the younglings, unfortunately. But it was a good game. But essentially, they employed political tactics to shame people into compliance, basically. So a lot of people talk about free will, and you can't violate free will. But if you are in agreement through fear, then you're still in agreement. Or if you're in agreement through guilt or shame, then you're still in agreement. So essentially what was happening is that they were masculinizing the female protagonist and making her more important than the male protagonist from the first game. And everything that was good about the first game was flipped upside down and made terrible in the second game. And unrealistic body types, all that kind of stuff. But
the reason for it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Then when valid criticism was raised, they fell behind that same political tactic. It's like, well, you're just a misogynist who can't tolerate strong females, you know.
Meanwhile,
we don't want the fat 40-year-olds playing our video games anyway. We want the hip new young people, you know, playing our video games.
Right. So the reason that they did that, they had this like butch ass man woman come in and destroy the male character, the male lead from the first game, is because he was showing protective fatherly instincts. He was showing, he was being a protective man. He was a surrogate father basically to this girl
man on
in
fire.
the game.
Yeah,
and
Logan.
Can't have that. You can't have that. Like you can't have Luke Skywalker after saving his father with using, hope. After being the change in Darth Vader, you bring him into The Last Jedi, and he's defeated. He's a defeated, homeless, grumpy Trump supporter who ran away from his responsibilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, right.
That's how they tried to portray him, and that was the proxy message to those of us who grew up admiring Luke's ability. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I jumped ahead to the list, Last Jedi, but I kind of want to sum this up because I have articles I want to go through and give you guys examples of these narcissists in Hollywood, how they used gaslighting, projection, and the flying monkey progressive weirdos. So come out of Gamergate, which is they're beginning to change games, they're blaming the fans. The fans actually came together and did a movement called #NotYourShield, which was like everybody that wasn't European and straight, like thousands of them coming together and going, I'm not your shield. Don't use me for your projections of racism and sexism and islamism and, to hurt other people. But it was ignored because the media had so much weight, had so much more. They basically blanketed out any criticism and deflected it as pointing the finger and again, projection of their own isms. while blaming straight, white, nuclear family, Christian, whatever the case was. Then this moved into, once they realized they could do that, they moved into comics. And once they moved into comics, they began to drum out all the conservatives. Yeah. They began to change the playing field. This is where you have Comicsgate, which was started by your boy Zach, Ethan Van Sciver, and a few other people who, Ethan, who was a professional comic book artist at the time in the industry. But you had, they began to change those characters in order to fit progressive narratives, to, sociopolitical progressive extremist narratives. They began to turn all the boys
like a female apprentice or supplicant, and then kill off the male, and then have the female take over the mantle.
Right, so and the thing about extremists is that their storytelling ability is crap. Right, yeah. It's all based on hatred. It's all these are narcissistic or cluster B personality type people, or cluster whatever. They have disorders. These people have disorders, in which if they went to school and they were bullied, instead of maturing, and becoming stronger, they decided to take up. They were actually taught in liberal indoctrination, progressive indoctrination centers, colleges, so that they could shift the blame, that they can shift their responsibility. It's not your fault that you're not strong enough. It's not your fault that you can't overcome this, this thing in your life or become a better person, a better version of yourself. It's the white man. It's the Christian. Patriarchy. It's the patriarchy. There's any excuse to validate the unchecked hatred that stems from some broken part within themselves. It's a facilitation of spreading these types of disorders, of unhealthy personality disorders. And so you had trove after trove with gender studies degrees, which are completely worthless, moving into the market, who needed spaces and needed places to work. And so they began creating places in HR for gender studies degrees. And they began to shame people for being who they were, because they were not accepting, they weren't going out with a tranny because a tranny man is actually a woman. Bullshit. That whole myth that you can choose or identify with something that's scientifically and biologically untrue. Untrue. Now, mind you, Coyle and I are both of the mind when it comes to things like this, that we're both reincarnationists, and we both understand there have always been he, she's, there have always been gay, there has always been people like 3 spirits or 5 spirits or whatever they're called. There's always been these types of things in our society, but it's a minority. It's a very small minority. It's not a majority. The majority of people in our world have certain characteristics, and that is what it is. So when you propel these small minorities who are vastly misunderstood into the forefront, use them as a shield in order to deflect criticism from your bad behavior, your isms, while you're projecting those things onto fan bases to generate negative fuel, to generate attention. This is a cycle that created backlashes like Comicsgate and like the Fandom Menace, which came shortly thereafter. Right. So you go into the birth of the Fandom Menace, Immortal Coil. You were there with me, my brother. Oh yeah. What started that? Well, essentially, there were 3 channels that were operating independently. The big 3. Okay, now there was tons of channels, but these were the guys that really galvanized and gave it the name and all that kind of stuff. There was Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy Griggs. There was Comic Artist Pro Secrets, Ethan Van Sciver, who we were just talking about. And then there was Jeff Hicks from World Class Bullshitters. And those 3 got together and decided to make a show called The High Council, which from 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. Every Tuesday night they would get up and just spit the truth. 2018, thank you. Yeah, they would just spit the truth. Everything that was frustrating to us, everything that had been subconsciously irritating, but we just couldn't quite put our fingers on it. These 3 guys got together and called it what it was.
and invented the term the Fandom Menace. It was a massively successful show. There's an iteration of it still going on, but Jeff is carrying it by himself. It's not quite the same as it was, which isn't to take away from Jeff and his ability, but this was a special slice in time. And a lot of us who ended up becoming other channels met in that chat. So when Steven says like born and forged in the fire of the chat, he's not just, BSing you. He's actually speaking the truth. I first saw Snowdub in there. I first saw Stephen Walton in there. I first saw Black Angus in there. I first saw the Rookie Critic. I first saw, just all these people that we would all eventually collaborate and work with. And several of the people who were alongside us ended up blowing up themselves, like Lethal Lightning and Drunk 3PO. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see Ryan there quite, but, people like that. So if you weren't there, the best way I can describe it is maybe go back on World Classes and see if he has some vintage shows, because it was just an event. And the fact that it was on Tuesday on a day where like nobody was really doing anything anyway, it was easy to just kind of like sit back and throw in a super chat and they'd read it and they'd laugh. And, sometimes it was poignant and sometimes it was silly and sometimes it was irreverent, but goddamn, it was a good time, man. Absolutely.
Really was. Absolutely was a good time. I want to get the super chat out of the way because I really want to get into the articles that we have. Okay. CJH Entertainment, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you. He said, I'd like to hear Mortal Coil's thoughts on my dinosaur reptilian theory.
Okay, so while Steven was kind of talking, I was chatting with CJH, and if you go back higher than that, you can see where he's saying, let's see here. As funny as that theory is, Google what dinosaurs looked like if they evolved into humans and connect the dots to reptilians. He says, I don't believe dinosaurs actually went extinct. I think the useless ones died out, but the smart ones evolved into extremely smarter ones. Okay. Now, as I go into this, the people on my channel know, in addition to being like a old soul and a spiritualist and all that, I've had ET contact. I've been used as breeding stock. I have different understandings and a different version of history that's been presented to me. So, number one, yes, the dinosaurs are real. They were actually engineered by Alpha Draconis. Okay, those are the original, the OG reptilian race. And one of the things that they like to do is play with genetics. So they went and stamped their image and likeness not only on sentient races, but they started playing with the flora and fauna that they found here on Earth when they originally arrived. Now, back then, Earth was a lot different. There were multiple different races operating at the same time. So one of the stock that they worked on absolutely became sentient, and in time they moved underground and avoided calamities. But the reason the dinosaurs died out was indeed because of an asteroid, but not because of the cartoon way the scientists put it. It was a weaponized asteroid. And you have to think, when you're capable of traveling space and time, gravity becomes a very simple thing to equate. So you're not necessarily going to point a ray gun or use a nuclear bomb. If you want to really do some damage, you're going to hurl a planetoid or a heavenly object at your enemy. And that's what killed the dinosaurs. So there you go. Thanks for the $5, bud.
Thank you very much, brother. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you, CJH. No, I don't think that is exactly what happened. But we can't talk about that on this platform because,
right.
Because they like those types. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, guys, I'm going to be moving this over to Rumble at some point, moving my live streams over there so that we can talk freely about things that should be talked about. All right, so as we move on, let's talk about. So one of the projections that the fandoms of Star Wars, Star Trek, Star Trek is where it all started for me. Star Trek, when they gave us Star Trek Discovery, which is an abomination, Kurtzman Trek, complete horrible. And I liked the actress from The Walking Dead. Can't even remember her name now, but I liked her, the actress from The Walking Dead. But they gave us a show where every straight white guy was the villain, or they were insulted and degraded and put down. Every minority group that they could possibly think of, they threw in there, and they were the bestest ever. And that's one of the problems, again, from games and comics into television and movies, where they masculinized women characters. Women characters all of a sudden. Now, some withstanding, like Rogue, you know what I mean? But women characters were automatically stronger than men. They were the bestest ever. They couldn't do wrong. If they were a gay character, they couldn't do wrong. If they were a non-binary, which is a word created for androgynous, which has always been a thing, you know, much like Brie Larson being the first superhero woman to breaking the glass ceiling. But they propose these things that are just absurd to piss off rational people. Just in the same way a narcissist will manipulate you by projecting their own faults, what they're doing, onto their victim in order to create a fog. It's like in order to create a reaction of what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know. That's exactly what these toxic people in Hollywood were doing. One of the things that they projected upon us all, upon the fandoms who were getting smear campaigned, come at with flying monkeys online, the far left progressives, is that we were all racist, 40-year-old racist sexists living in our mother's basement because we hated women. We're like afraid of the sun or something.
Right. And they had to demonize us and dehumanize us.
And which created the backlash of the Menace, much like Comicsgate and much like the Gamergate and everything before it. So one of the projections that were said was that we were racist. We didn't want to see a black character. We don't want to see black people make it. As if nobody loved Blade. As if no one liked Samuel L. Jackson. As if no one liked, you know what I mean? Like all of these wonderful actors we've had in our past that have played roles that we have enjoyed and adored, like Lando Calrissian. Didn't care he was black. Blade was an awesome character. Lando was an awesome character. Yep. You know what I mean? There was a little bit of a why are they race swapping Jackson? Nick Fury. Why are they race swapping Nick Fury? But Sam Jackson pulled it off in the first up until Infinity.
Yeah, up until the TV show.
At the same time, Disney is filming in places like Mulan, which is literally taking Islamic people and putting them on transports to take them to concentration camps, while refusing to film in places like Georgia because they support abortion, and also promoting their film, calling the fans racist, while reducing the size of John Boyega in the poster for China because the Chinese are racist. They hate black people.
Yes, they do. And they're
So-
very open about it.
They're very open about it. There's videos all over the place of them beating the crap out of like darker skinned Asians or black Asians. Because there are places in China's huge. There are places where they're literally like black Asians, black people with Asian looks, So tell Immortal Coil. I'm sure that's why I'm glad you're here to go over this with me. What was the reaction of the fandom when we discovered that the progressive, all the fans are racist, Disney Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy reduced the image of the only black man on cast for the Chinese release?
Well, it was incredulous. And the things that, very often the things that you accuse others of, you are guilty of yourself. Now, just real fast, I wanted to say the only thing Star Trek Discovery did good was launch Doomcock's career. So hail Doomcock.
Hail Lord Doomcock.
Yeah. But essentially, we started calling them out on that stuff, and they just, tried to sweep us under the rug. We very squarely pointed this kind of stuff out, and they just kind of like, because Disney is willing to kiss China's ass because of the population of China. and they're just looking at it with dollar signs in their eyeballs. It's disgusting. Finn was probably one of the more compelling characters, and when you first see The Force Awakens, you think, ooh, this guy might be Force sensitive. He picked up Anakin's lightsaber. It's not Rey's lightsaber, it's Anakin's lightsaber. Right. And he got his ass handed to him by Kylo Ren, which deservedly so. But what was not deservedly so was the way that the actor John Boyega was treated by Disney. Like in the first movie, you get the sense that he's going to have a big, huge story arc.
Yeah, he was going to be a Jedi.
Yeah, they turned him into like a bumbling sidekick to like the worst written character ever. And
enter grandiose narcissist Rian Johnson.
The narcissist of all narcissists, Rian Roundhead Johnson. Very aptly named. Last name. But they sidelined his character. They made him kind of like the butt boy of the sequel trilogy, the Disney Star Wars trilogy. I don't even consider them sequels. George Lucas and the Clone Wars and the EU. That's what Star Wars is. And they basically humiliated him. And once his contract was up, he started much like Mark Hamill initially did, started talking the truth about how Disney treated him as a human being, and it was outrageous. We called them out for it. And again, we were sidelined. They probably just paid him some hush money or told him that he was violating his contract somehow, or, and basically made that go away. Like Disney's really famous for using Hollywood rags as their PR department. So you think you're reading something on Variety? Nah, you're reading something off of Kathleen Kennedy's desk.
Isn't that the truth? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you have anything to say, or to stand up for yourself, and God forbid you're a conservative.
You had told us at a town hall, I think it was in July, that
you are ejected.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah. So CJ, I see your super chat. I'll get to you in a moment. I just want to go through a little bit in the chat just for a moment. Deborah says Star Wars is going downhill because it got Disney-fied. Absolutely. And because Disney didn't know what they were doing. And they also had an agenda. Kathleen Kennedy had an agenda. Ray Skywalker, Ray Palpatine is Kathleen Kennedy. It is an insertion. It's a narcissistic person inserting themselves into the franchise to see themselves on screen. And that's why Ray is the bestest ever, because Kathleen Kennedy is the bestest ever. It was all self-inserts. I also, let's see, I just want to catch a couple more. Big Mike. God, Big Mike. That is so funny. Guys, please check out Whatever Cast, did an interview with him. I got a live stream on him. I think it was episode 2 of the Narcissistic Survivor Chronicles. Please go check that out. Wonderful man, wonderful channel. Whatever Cast, please go check him out. Let's see. Real quick, Scott Clark. What's up, Scott? Hail, brother. Thank you for being here. He says, I finished The Last of Us 2 in November. It was good, but I played the first one through about 10 times. I hated they killed Joel like that. Sick. Yeah, and it's crazy. Yeah. And I wonder what they're going to do. We're going to talk about the actor that played Joel in the series, who is a leftist wacko.
He's one of the worst. But that love scene in that game.
Nobody wants to sleep with a hose beast. Nobody wants to sleep with the Macho Man. If you're a dude, you don't want to sleep with the Macho Man. Maybe some dudes do. I'm not hating.
She had broader shoulders than he did.
Okay. Scott also says, I'm playing Doom 2016 right now while listening to you. It's almost like reliving the 90s with Art Bell and AM Talk Radio. Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Please check out Savage Spirituality. That's one of the things we do.
It's way far out there just like that. You dig it.
Yep, absolutely. And CJH for $10. Thank you so very much. $10 Canadian. I greatly appreciate you. Channel member. Hail, brother. This manipulation of our culture has happened for thousands of years, as far back as 1800, maybe even further. Over here, the Cabbage Patch Kids, not the toys, and the connections to cloning. Coil?
I have not heard of the Cabbage Patch Kids, but you're right. The manipulation of society has occurred for thousands of years. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's when you talk about first off, it's kind of a spiritual, savage spirituality topic, but
yeah,
the 13 families, the 13 houses, they've been manipulating for well over 1800 years. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah. Well, so you hear about the Dark Ages, right? That was one of the veils that was closed. And then you had the establishment of the Abrahamic religions. You had torture, compelled obedience, the monarchies, the divine right to rule. All that European stuff is actually modeled after the structure of the Alpha Draconis, except interestingly, that's a matriarchy. They have a queen instead of a king. But it's interesting. They pulled off for a few years, and you know what we ended up doing? We created the United States of America. We wrote the Declaration of Independence. We wrote the Constitution of the United States. We wrote the Bill of Rights. Those are Terran human documents, and they are some of the most powerful things that have ever been created. I mean, we talk about the founding fathers being geniuses, and yeah, we see them on their money, but like Thomas Jefferson spoke 5 languages. He was fluent in 5 languages. He wasn't just some dude on the back of your nickel. Really research the founding of America, people. It's very important, and it's one of those things they try to attack Republicans for being constitutional. They're like, oh yeah, the Second Amendment's just about muskets. No, it's not. It's about personal. It's about standing your ground. It's about the line in the sand. It's about and our rights are not given to us by the government. The Bill of Rights are enumerated. The Constitution is specifically to address the limitations that the government should have and the shape that it should have. So yeah, bone up on your American history, even if you're foreigners. Bone up on it. It's good stuff. Thanks for the $10, man.
Yes, thank you so much, CJ. Greatly appreciate you, brother. And I think he continued on. He said that, and Disney started around 1900s. That was the other reset we had. In a way, we are all living in post-apocalyptic times. I mean, it's a cycle. Yes, we are. I mean, but how large do you look at that apocalypse? I go back as far as the cradle of current civilization after the Younger Dryas era.
Well, and you also have to think that corporate thinking is the thing that drives that evil. Like Walt Disney in his garage with his brother Roy trying to make a cartoon is one thing, but then Disney as it is now buying up all the companies, so it's essentially one company, is quite different. Just like John Pemberton trying to make a medicinal cola in his garage. He only sold 9 cases of it during his lifetime, but now Coca-Cola owns the planet. It's that corporate thinking and the holographic implementation of that corporate thinking.
Yes, we have Ferengis. They're all Ferengis. And also the use of media to blanket and silence everyone, to silence us with misinformation. Like what happened with the COOF, the amount of misinformation put out there, in your face, when you have enough people smear campaigning, enough people lying about you, or enough people lying about something, and in cahoots together lying about it, you can create the idea that so-and-so died on a motorcycle, but it was actually COVID. And these are the lies that are sold to us blatantly in our face because of the successes that sociopolitical extremism had on things like the gaming industry, the comic industry, the television and movie market. They know that if you tell, just like a narcissist knows, you tell a lie over and over and over and over again, and then people are going to believe it. You just keep lying. It creates the illusions that are created. But not only that, with the intent of pure harm against others. Now, going back just for a moment, so you had brought up the expanded universe. And there was someone in early Disney Lucasfilm, when Lucasfilm was bought by Disney, who actually had been around since the prequel era, working with or around Lucasfilm, by the name of Pablo Hidalgo, who called when Disney bought. All right, think about this. Disney buys Lucasfilm. They buy the treatments for the sequel trilogy. They immediately get rid of all the canon, all the expanded universe, all the books that kept that fandom alive, the comics, the stories, the games, all of the things that kept them engaged in between the wide berths of the two trilogies. They took them and threw them out. Well, of course, some of the fans came together and said, no, we want to see Jaina Solo. We want to see, or Jason Solo. We want to see, Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. We want to see Mara Jade. We want to see all these awesome ass characters that we have been reading about in comics and books and playing with in games. And people like Pablo Hidalgo, because they were emboldened, these progressives under Kathleen Kennedy, who's narcissist herself, called the fans militant and shitty for simply loving what they loved because of the narrative that they're all 40-year-old man babies living in their mother's basement, including this gentleman right here. Please explain.
Guys, oh my God.
Please explain what happened to Star Wars Theory, who he is and what happened here.
Sure. Star Wars Theory since 2016 has been doing, out of the love of Star Wars, out of the love of his heart, he has been doing fan fictions. He's done a live podcast. He's also done a commentary on the movies. He is the #1 Star Wars channel on YouTube, and out of his own money, he made a Vader fan film, which was really awesome. Okay, now Disney Star Wars has always been iffy, and for the longest time, Theory was very, very neutral about it. When The Mandalorian came out, the first and second seasons were such a breath of fresh air, that the fandom actually had hope. Even like the Fandom Menace, we were like, man, this is actually pretty good. This might actually go somewhere. At the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, and spoiler alert, but this is a couple years old, so if you haven't seen season 2 of The Mandalorian, don't listen for the next minute or so. Who else but Luke Skywalker appears, and he kills a bunch of robots, and he comes up the lift and he takes off his hood. And Star Wars Theory in his live stream began crying, which I don't blame him for. I cried during that. Not necessarily because of Luke, but like when Baby Yoda touched Mando's face, that made me cry.
Well, for me, it was Luke, though, because up until this point, I mean, just to interject for a second, up until this point, the only Luke Skywalker we got out of the sequel trilogy was from Ryan Roundhead Johnson.
The version, yeah.
Right, Mr. Grandiose Narcissist, who said, I'm going to take your hero and I'm going to take all the things you expected from the first one, completely rewrite them, destroy them, with Kathleen Kennedy cackling in the background, in order to further devalue the brand, the fans, and create more negative fuel on a grand scale. So
remember that
we didn't
post
get
he made
Luke's.
that was like, your Snoke theory sucks.
Yeah.
Openly mocking the fandom, the people who are paying money. So Star Wars Theory has that reaction that Walton had. You're seeing your childhood hero finally being badass. My reaction was like, yeah, you get him. Blah. I was like, totally into the Jedi aspect of it, because telekinesis and being psychic and a lightsaber, come on, that's like right up my alley. In outer space, come on. So what happened was Pablo Hidalgo mocked Star Wars Theory, the #1 Star Wars channel, for having an emotional response to seeing his childhood hero on screen, which is highly unbecoming of somebody who's supposed to be the lore master at Kathleen Kennedy Disney Lucasfilm. you make it a policy to, and Steven's going to get into this later, but essentially you make a policy to attack the people who are paying for your product. Those people aren't going to pay for your product anymore. We're either going to make our own stuff, which Star Wars Theory did with his Vader film, or we're going to turn around and point the finger at you and be like, who do you think you are? You know, you just have a fancier studio than I do. You know, so many people have made better fan films than the best of the best that Disney had to offer, which is probably Luke Skywalker showing up. And even then, like, Luke Skywalker's face was kind of like silly looking in the CGI. And there was a dude that they ended up hiring off of YouTube that went and did like a better deep fake than they did. And I think that that's the guy who did the Bubble Fett kind of.
Real quick, I want to mention there are a couple old Fandom Menace faces out here. Real quick, Zax is out here. Please subscribe to Zax. Put a link to your channel in the chat if you would, Zax. And oh my God, Riff Magos, what is up, bro? I ain't seen you in a hot minute. Hail, brother. Good to see you. He says, coughs, Disney shill, cough. It's all about Star Wars Theory. And then he says, by all means, let's dangle member berries in front of everybody and get everyone to cry because of nostalgia. EU for life. Hail, brother. Hail, brother. And Riff is one of those fans, one of those people who loves the expanded universe. Like, I didn't read the whole thing, but I loved it. Like, I wanted to see Mara Jade. I wanted to see the Skywalker family. You know, like, there are things I wanted to see that were just completely thrown away. And not only just thrown away, and I'm sure Riff can understand, we'll co-sign to this one. They have such a little imagination, these progressives, these narcissists, these sociopaths that are working at Disney Lucasfilm. They have such little creative ability that they have begun to cherry pick things from the expanded universe, bring it into their canon, which devalues it entirely. You know, like characters like Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was made a joke out of, but in Disney Rebels, you know, is a character you should fear. That's a character that you should, on Grand Sidious level, you know, Darth Sidious, Emperor level fear is what you should have with him.
He had a Jedi Master like completely under his thumb, and he's a shadow of the man that he was in the EU trilogy. The Timothy Zahn books were absolutely brilliant. It's well worth a read if you guys haven't read it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, actually, I went out with a woman. Little side note: I went out with a woman for the longest time who met Timothy Zahn. She was an EU fan.
Really?
And she has an old Celtic name, Gara. And when Zahn heard it, he was like, that's an interesting name. And then in the following book he wrote, he created a character named Gara. Nice. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So shout out to Gara. There's a link to Zax's channel, guys. Please check that out. Riff Magos says they made Thrawn look like a blue-faced Elon Musk.
Well, and here's the thing is, over the course of 3 books, it took 3 books for Thrawn to get defeated. But when he's like the villain of the week and the heroes are constantly like making him look like a buffoon, plus the fact that Disney writers don't write, they rip off and they hope that you're not noticing their mistakes. Like getting stabbed with a lightsaber, Qui-Gon Jinn is eternally pissed. You know,
absolutely.
The spirit of Qui-Gon's middle finger, right?
Let's not talk about the editing problems in the Last Jedi throne scene when Rey is so powerful she can make weapons disappear out of bad guys' hands.
Oh yeah, she just put it in the force pocket dimension. You know? They have that now.
By the way, I am hot for Daisy Ridley. I don't care what she's in. I love that. I love her. I want to. I want more Ridley. I want more Ridley. But so like people like Riff, right? Called militant and shitty by Pablo Hidalgo because he can be as toxic as he wants to be. Get that negative fuel. What do narcissistic, toxic people get off on? Well, they get off on destroying your hopes and dreams. They get off on breaking you down. They get off on you know. They get off on making people miserable because they themselves are miserable people. Far left activists. That's what they are. And the reason that it hit people like myself, Immortal Coil, anyone who really enjoyed seeing some type of Luke Skywalker is because at Disney Lucasfilm, That's the wrong one. At Disney Lucasfilm, in their production department. Hold on, where is it? That one. You know what I'm about to show, right?
This. I was actually going to do like a side quip before. But yeah, they've openly declared war on Luke Skywalker.
Yes, so this is one of the writers. This is an interview that they were doing, an insider in the Lucasfilm creators' offices. And here is a picture that they had up with a red X put through Luke Skywalker's face. Luke Skywalker, who loved his father, was, you know what I mean? He was a paradigm of love in his family. He believed in the most murderous, child-murdering, nastiest person in the world. He had one grain of hope left that his father still had an ounce of love in him. And in truth, Luke Skywalker did not defeat the Emperor. Anakin did. Darth Vader defeated the Emperor. And it took a change of heart from his son to change the most darkest heart in the galaxy, the most broken, defeated, angry man. It took love. Changed him. Yeah. And that is a message that toxic, narcissistic people cannot stand because they have no empathy and they want everyone to be as miserable and defeated as they feel inside.
Right. Luke beat with Padme's heart, man. And I think when Vader saw that, you know, Anakin came back. Just as Anakin said, Vader said, I killed Anakin Skywalker. And then Anakin Skywalker killed Darth Vader. And then he killed the Emperor. I don't care about the Disney sequel at all. He killed the Emperor. George Lucas even says he killed the Emperor.
So I could, if you're wondering, he's the puffy looking fat fuck on the left.
One too many empanadas.
Yeah, see, and I understand, like, guys, if you're unfamiliar with this, half my audience is from author Stephen Walton. I don't know, the guys from Dragonstorm, you may or may not be. But this is a fandom that, imagine, like, and it's groups of people. Imagine groups of people everywhere, all being harassed, gaslit, smeared, their favorite things taken, repurposed, mutilated, and then blamed for narcissistic behavior all over the place. That all came together and created a group that spread globally a backlash, a grassroots backlash against these people destroying our entertainments, using them as platforms for their sociopolitical extremist garbage. And we are at the point now where it's years later. Some of these channels, some of these people, these YouTubers have built incredible followings. Look up Nerdrotic. He's one of Gary Beekler. Gary Beekler's one of my boys. Knew him before he was monetized. My man's about to get 1 million subs. Hail Nerdrotic, right? I love Gary's my man. Like, check out him. Check out like World Class. We brought up World Class Bullshitters earlier. There's also like been this entire culture that was created, and I'm very happy to have input just a small bit of energy and be part of a grassroots backlash that spread, that created a culture of supporting other YouTubers, supporting voices, helping one another, fighting against ideologues and entertainments. Trying to create division, hate, separation, segregation, projecting their own for personality disorders on everyone else while gaslighting and smear campaigning and sending flying monkeys through far leftists and Antifa, Black Lives Matter, blue-haired weirdos on Twitter and Facebook. And mind you, and these people like Zax, like Riff, like CJ, like One Man Show, like Immortal Coil, like all of these people all fought against a media that had generated a smear campaign to protect their extremist allies, their far left extremist allies. The amount of toxic people in positions of power, and we all know narcissists and narcissistic people crave positions of power, the amount of those types who fought against the rise of World Class, of Doomcock, of Ethan Van Sciver, of Jeremy Griggs, of Gary Beekler, of all these different people that stood up and said no and fought for their beliefs and made their voices heard, and everyone who supported them, we all together created a culture that exists today of fighting against this type of rhetoric, whether it's Lord of the Rings TV show, which was an abomination, complete FU to any fan. They took Galadriel and turned her into a friend at Macho Man.
Make it lame and gay.
They chicken it, make it lame and gay, right? Like, completely destroying myths. And because of this, we are beginning to see the unraveling. Disney's lost so much money, right? Look at X-Men, right? Or not X-Men. Look at, the Avengers, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Once it went into phase 4, the MCU. Once the people who were running it, who cared about the mythos they were trying to convey, and it wasn't perfect, it wasn't at all perfect, but all the way up until Infinity War Endgame. After all that money, that bank had been made, they immediately went into the MCU and they started producing bad, ideologically driven, the wham and power, white men are evil movies. And look how it tanked. Look at the Marvels. Nobody likes Brie Larson. God, we should get into Brie Larson and her, racist comments. But like nobody likes Brie Larson. Right? Nobody. And the Marvels tanked because the rhetoric is finally catching up. The funds are finally drying up. There is a change that is happening in Hollywood, and it is due to all of the people who stood up to these narcissistic, toxic pieces of shit in Hollywood, in Disney, and said no. So hail to all of y'all, hail to everyone for refusing to kneel and fighting for our modern myths, and while doing it, while creating a culture of supporting one another, stating your beliefs, not backing down, and being the best version of yourself. Hail Fandom Menace. Hail all y'all. Sorry, I got a little on my high. Got on my high horse there for a second.
Steven's good for a rant.
Yeah, man. I will forever proudly gatekeep the Star Wars as someone who still has my 1977 X-Wing and TIE Fighter jigsaw puzzle. Hail, Riff. Nice. You damn right you do that. Real quick, Nikki Red is in the house. We suffer no fools. What is going on, Nikki? Good to see you, baby girl. Thank you for being in the chat. My love to you. I got another super chat. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. We're all right. So before we continue on, for $5, CJH channel member, thank you so much, brother. He says, do they use CERN to reset history now or to continue the lie? The Mandela effect, etc. That's what's concerning them, having technology like lasers in Texas. Well, I mean, before Coyle, this is a Coyle question, but before he goes on, the Project Looking Glass has shown them that the awakening is happening. There's nothing that they can do to stop it. The disillusionment will happen. Their control over us is diminishing. And so at this point, they are doing everything they can to prolong the inevitable. You know what I mean? They're playing a chess game. They can't win. There's checkmate in so many moves, and they're trying to extend how many moves before they are exposed, lose control. So Please, Coyle.
Well, in essence, you're right, Stephen. This is the kicking baby throwing a tantrum. This is the 3-year-old just, I don't want to. CERN was an attempt to punch holes through time. Yeah. But the little toy was broken by the benevolence. CERN is basically, I want to use the F word, but Steven doesn't like me swearing on the channel. It's F'd.
You can say the F word. You can say it a couple times. All right, Coyle?
Yeah. I just can't say it every other word like I do on my other channel. CERN is essentially fucked. The purpose that it was intended for has been dismantled by the benevolence. Shit. Steven's correct. We turned a major corner not too long ago. And the reason for the Mandela effect, that is actually a symptom of the corner that we turn. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Mandela effect is, it's kind of like, do you remember Berenstain Bears being spelt like with an A-R or a I-E? Stuff like that. Do you remember Nelson Mandela being in jail for a long time? Well, suddenly he hasn't been in jail ever. Things like that. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. Different timelines, different possibilities had been braided together into one, essentially. And the best way to maintain that is just to stay positive and stay in your light. We really are one force, and we really are a unique humanity. We're very special genetically. We're very special spiritually, especially the ones of us that are conscious and awake and know it and live purposefully. And we're not just reacting to things. We're not just twiddling thumbs on our smartphone or walking around dumb at the mall, wondering what's sexy. We have a real opportunity. And essentially, the dark hats have been cleaned off the planet, at least extraterrestrial-wise. There's still POS human beings, and I say that in air quotes, with old programming, and they're kicking and screaming right now. But ultimately, it's not going to work, because if it's on TV, we're just not going to watch TV. If it's in the movies, we're not going to go to the movies. If it's on college campuses, we're going to home educate our children from now on. We're going to pass on the true knowledge of light. And that's called the law of consistency. You don't want to dumb down your children. They want to dumb down your children, but you want your children to possess the sum total of all of your knowledge so that they can use that as a basis of operation and then go ahead and improve upon it. And then each generation gets better and better and better. We need to have like a whole generation of little Teslas, because he demonstrated that if he could comprehend all that and do what he did, like 100 years ago, then anybody can. And that was always his message. So these benevolent ETs, they don't want you to be in awe of their physiology or their technology. They want you to get off your goddamn knees and stand up and do something amazing. It's time to join the big show, guys. And that's what it's about. So I floated this idea out in the chat. If you guys are into the Art Bell kind of stuff, go to my channel, go to Savage Spirituality, click on the live tab, and just start climbing through some of the streams, because we go into very big depths to explain all this stuff. And if you go into the shorts, it's more like I'm just philosophizing. They're just like little 10, 15-minute clips of just like random wisdom that occurs to me during the day.
Second clips.
Yeah. Sorry, you're right. 15-second clips. I don't know what I'm talking about.
One man show hates shorts, but I swear by them. They've grown my channel.
Yeah, and honestly, Steven was a big part in encouraging me to do that. Like the most watched clip has like 5K views, and
beautiful.
You know, sometimes the algorithm only gives me like 20 or 30 views. It is what it is. But I live for the live stuff, and especially with a co-host like Steven. If I can get some of you guys to sub to me and join us on I live in the West Coast, so Pacific time, I start at about 11 p.m. If I can get you guys to come on and stream and ask some of these same questions. I have all this knowledge in my soul, and I'm one of those guys that can go and pick up a book and be like, that's true, that's bullshit, that's true, that's a little bit true, that's kind of bullshit, but it's all right. And then Steven, like I said, he possesses similar knowledge, but he's walked a different path and he's come at it from a different angle, you know, being like a pagan witch, essentially. But he's also dream walked. He's also had spiritual journeys. So together we're able to talk about the same thing from different lenses and just really have a great conversation. Case in point, yesterday's live stream was one of the best we have ever done. And if you go to my live tab, it's the one that has a lightning bolts over the ocean. So check that out. It's about 3 hours. It's good to put on. Like, yeah, it's good to put on, throw in your earbuds while you're at work or while you're vacuuming or doing your dishes or doing your wife or whatever you're doing. So
you're gonna do your wife listening to Coyle talk about aliens. That's the right. Intergalactic pimp giving the long stroke.
That's right. You know, so we appreciate the $5. You know, and yes, I have been used for breeding stock, but that's just kind of
he's a pimp.
Yeah, it's just kind of titillating. It's not like the main focus of the interaction. The main focus of the interaction is to spread the message, right?
And I maintain, and I am not a gracist, but I maintain, I do not want to get graped, all right, by little grays, all right? What do they do? They're intergalactic terrorists. They freaking go into your room, they stun you, and then they're wearing leather and straps, and then they freaking grape your butthole. Like I'm not a gracist.
No, totally. They're a dying race, and they have tried to solicit my cooperation, but I have steadfastly refused to.
Coyle will not bang. He's not a gracist, but he's not banging one, and I understand. Yeah. Before we move on, because I was actually going to segue into Pandolando to talk about the sexualization of strange ideals to our kids.
That's a good way to do it.
And the destruction of the nuclear family, the feminization of black men, the attack that's been on black men forever, which I think has a lot to do with that too. And what finds me funny because what was his name? Don Glover.
Yep.
Donald Glover, who's a racist himself. Listen to any of his lyrics. Good actor. He's a good actor, but I don't care. So is Tom Hanks, but he's in Greece because he doesn't want to get charged with peddling who. But before we go into that, actually, I want to talk about. I'll bring up Data Racer 117, guys. If you're on Twitter or X, please check out Data Racer 117. Before we go into that,
of information. Yeah.
Massive, so wonderful resource. Before I go into that, real quick, Scott Clark came up with a message with a question. He says, Coiler Stephen, what are your theories about the destruction of the Georgia Guidestones and its timing? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That was a purposeful terrorist attack. Absolutely. Whoever created them, and it's one of those things like feel them out, look them up, read what they have to say. When you commit something to stone, there is a built-in permanence because this is something of the earth that you've changed with your hand. If you set it up and leave it alone and on a level playing field, especially if it's at a intersecting point of ley lines, there's a potential for it to be there for thousands of years. And just vandalism, a purposeful terrorist attack. That's what I'm getting from it.
When that happens, I was actually in a motel room with Narc X and we were streaming with people talking about that. So I haven't even paid attention to it. And she threw a dildo at me. All right. So, we were all there with like dark stories. What's his name now? Oh my God. I can't think of his name now. With another cat that does those types of stuff. No, I haven't even thought about the Georgia Guidestones since then. You know what? Thank you, Scott, for letting me know that there's another unhealed traumatic event that I need to now go through. So, hey, man, hail to you, brother. So before we continue on, we're talking about The Mandalorian Season 2. We were talking about what had happened during that time. And so Pedro Pascal, who plays The Mandalorian, he put this out during the election of 2020, the farce, the stolen, the let's make everybody stay in their house and feed them fear porn and tell them there's deadly disease out there that's not killing anybody and keep them change your DNA with shots from a guy who killed tens of thousands of people in the 80s, and then tell everybody, but it's all good, everyth's good. Get your boosters. But at the same time, right, still in the election. So while so Pedro Pascal put this out, like many of the other Nephwell progressive nut jobs in Hollywood, losers in 1865, losers in 1945, and losers in 2020, called 65 million voters Nazis and racists. This is Pedro Pascal. This is the way that they think at Disney Lucasfilm. This is how the narcissists and toxic people in Hollywood project their hatred, their brokenness, and literally smear 65 million people, blanket statement, in order to make his Fifis feel better, his broken inner child. And so Gina's response to this, not a response to this, but Gina was talking, where is it? Where was it? I can't find it. I have to look for it. Hold on.
Gina was on the Luke episode, by the way.
Here we go. Gina was in the Luke episode. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I thought I was on top of this one. Oh, snap.
It's okay. They had grand plans for Gina Carano. And when I say they, I mean Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. They were going to give her her own spinoff, and it was all going to...
people love Gina.
Yeah, it was all going to resolve itself in this movie that Dave Filoni's coming up with, but tell them what happened.
Basically for the first time, we had an actress or an actor that was working at Disney Lucasfilm that was openly conservative, that did not share the values of the wackos that were working there. And she was under pressure the entire time. Like they were just looking for an excuse. But while this was happening, the fans were like, yeah, we support this person. Thank God. It's just, they're actually letting someone who doesn't exist in their hive mind work at Disney Lucasfilm. And so when Pedro put that out, Gina put out a counter argument which was this tweet. It was, the Jews were beaten in the streets, not by the Nazis, soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is this any different from hating someone for their political views? Very straight up statement. Very mature statement. And that's something that is happening or has been happening in our country consistently, heatedly for the last 15 years since since like 2000, I'd say 2010, since the government started really regulating the internet and gaining control over it, gaining control over all Western media. It's a vilification of a certain type of people. And when you get to that point, you have the punching game, right? Where you have groups of black kids who will just hit an old white person and get away with it because the black kids aren't racist. That's not racism. No. That's justified to hit a random, to beat a random
windows and steal thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. That's not racist.
Right? And it's not racist. It's not horrible. They're just letting their fifis go. It's justified for them to be toxic, terrible, awful fucking people. And Gina was basically pointing that out. Gina Carano gets fired. Because Kennedy, we suspect, we've heard, Kennedy was very upset of the positive reaction to Luke coming back, or at least a scene with Luke in him, with Luke in it, but also because the narcissist got slighted. The narcissist buddy, Pedro Pascal, Little Narc, put out a statement that smeared and created a lot of negative fuel and smeared a whole bunch of people. Whereas someone else who doesn't have a fucking emotional disorder came in and made a statement that is pretty legit, pretty on the table. What Gina said. They had to attack Gina. Here I would like to give you guys an example of the flying monkeys that exists in the extremist far left. Thank you to Data Racer again, 117. Very much appreciate you. So here is something from the media. This is garbage tier media. Gina Carano continues to suck while Pedro Pascal keeps our crush on him pure. He's the good guy because he called all the Trump supporters Nazis and racists. She's the bad person because she brought up a very good correlation, a very good lesson about not letting hate run amok, not letting a cautionary tale. She's the bad guy. She's the bad guy. To the narcissists and toxic people, she's the bad guy, and he's the hero.
It's interesting to me, Stephen. There's that old adage that those who do not understand history are doomed to repeat it. And then in the political sphere around the same time that all this was going on, they were tearing down historical statues under the, racist kind of flag and replacing them with like modern art that just makes no sense. Like they'll put like a dick in the middle of Georgia, like a no shit dick, with a guy holding it up. You remember that thing?
Yeah.
After tearing down a statue of a Confederate general, when in any meaningful discourse of history, if you disagree with the general, then let that image there be of a cautionary tale. Don't turn it into some fucking weirdo piece of Big Mike art, All right.
Yeah, right. No, that's fine. I wish we had a quarter test. Where's Wes? Where's Wes in the quarter test? Wes had a guy on. Some of you, I know some of you don't like him. Some of you do. It's whatever. The guy, this voice actor Vic Mignogna, right? Because he did this. He did a series. Wes used to cover Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wes was reviewing a fan-made Star Trek TOS, fan-made TOS recreation. Vic Mignogna was Captain Kirk, and he did a pretty good job. It was a pretty good show.
Star Trek continues. It was a great series.
Yeah, it really was. But Vic found out, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go on this dude's channel," And Vic's mildly famous. He's like a C-list, D-list, fame, but it's bigger than Wes, yeah. So he comes on Wes's show, and Wes interviews him and talks to him. Has a great time, and then this motherfucker. This is what Wes does. There's a scene of Michelle Obama on the Ellen DeGeneres show when they're dancing, and she's got like a roll of quarters in her pocket. Let's say Michelle has a roll of quarters in her pants, right? Yeah. And you can see it. It's boinky, boinky, boinky. Yeah. It's boinky, 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 boinky. And so Wes brings this up to this dude, and he's like, can you tell me if there's something wrong with this picture, Vic? Is there something wrong with this video? Is there something out of place? I'm like, Wes, this dude's kind of famous. What are you doing? Oh, man. Guys, subscribe to Whatever Cast. Wes Moody is absolute hilarity. So these are some of the these are the flying monkeys. These are the blue-haired weirdos. These are the Twitter spawn that would come after other fans, just hateful people. These people don't like Star Trek or Star Wars or Doctor Who or Lord of the Rings. They don't care about any of it. They're there simply to degrade others, spread pain, misery, create negative fuel, all of their collective disorders, progressive extremists. This is what they do. All right. It's the same reason that Black Lives Matters goes out there and destroys your neighborhoods, right? They're out there fighting for the black people, but they destroy their own neighborhoods. It's the same reason why, your Antifas are anti-fascists, but they act in every fascist way, and promote fascism. It's just
and on the payroll of the emperor, I might add.
And on the payroll of the emperor, right? So Data Racer here, Data Racer 117, guys, please go check him out. So I know this, let me see if I can increase this has got to be a little, wait, did I do it wrong? Hold on. By the gods, Walton, come on. Zoom, there we go. That's Zoom.
It's a good thing you don't like work in IT or anything for a living.
Yeah, shut up, dude. Be quiet. Be quiet. Don't sell me out right now. Don't sell me out. Okay. No, it's going backwards. Oh my God. Come on. Okay. I was just going to have to read them off. You're going to have to trust me. Damn it. All right. So here we have F.U. Gina Carano. You're just another MAGA Nazi loser. Bye. Now, it's funny that what always got me, Immortal Coil, could you describe to me the conundrum in a group of socialists pointing the finger at constitutionalists and calling them Nazis?
Right. It's because they don't understand German. They don't understand the translation of what Nazi is short for, which if you translate it, it's the German, the National Socialists German Workers' Party. Right.
Yeah. So the Nazis were socialists, and the people that are pointing the finger at conservatives or Trump supporters are calling them socialists.
This is the thing. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-great-grandparents fought to keep this shit off of our continent, like almost 100 years ago. This is 80 years ago now. And now to see all this stuff going on. I saw a video, and I don't know if it was YouTube or like a TikTok import. Like, I refuse to install TikTok. Sorry, Steven. But where there was a guy, he was like 90 years old, and he was like in a World War II hat, and he's like, hobbling around on a cane or something. And these college kids in black masks are calling him, a fascist. And these kids don't even understand what fascism is because they are practicing it and using it to cajole somebody who fought fascism. What the living hell, man? What's going on?
And what's going on is you're dealing with people with mental disorders. All right, these are they have personality problems.
Baby Soroses.
Baby Soros they're either legit trolls who just don't care. They live in chaos. They're just sociopathic, whatever. But a lot of these people are damaged. They're fucked up in the head. They're following. It's not even that they believe the finger pointing. They're following NPCs. The program. NPCs, non-playing characters out there who do not think for themselves. And I don't even think. Did that
come from Griggs? Was he the first one that made that connection?
The NPC meme? Yeah. I'm not sure where that started. I'm honestly not sure where that started. But
okay.
But it was scrubbed from the internet because it was too true. The same way that a narcissist will completely ignore and do anything to deflect the reality of what they've done or be held accountable or exposed for who they are. The NPC meme was scrubbed from the internet, called whatever jargon it was, because it was accurate. It's accurate. These people don't think for themselves. They have a hive mind. All they care about is creating turmoil. All they care about is projecting their own ills, their isms, whatever it is, whatever hatred they have, whatever broke, whatever uncle fucking touched them, whatever it is, they're going to blame somebody else and cause hate to somebody else because, you know, they're living a healthy life. And, you know, like I may have a problem with and it doesn't matter what sector of life you're from, because they will eat their own. SJWs, social justice warriors, these trash, these inhuman garbage will eat their own.
And that's probably a great spiritual truism. If you leave them alone and refuse to engage with them, they'll kill each other.
Which is why this is why you go no contact from narcissists. That's why you go no contact, because they can't stand that. It invalidates their existence. They can't trigger you. They can't get under your skin. They can't harm you. They don't feel they have any control over you. They're not fucking up your life or screwing you up, giving you a bad day. You ignore them. You invalidate them. And that makes them insane, because then they have to not look at themselves or scramble to go destroy someone else. It is. But in the case of where like the grassroots backlash, it kind of created a self-fulfilling system, a self-feeding system, where the negative fuel, and oddly enough, one of the people who founded the Fandom Menace is a self-described narcissist, Ethan Van Sciver. And if it wasn't for him showing a lot of us, myself included, how to not give a fuck about what these SJWs were saying and clown them and, use their own energy against them, then we wouldn't have monetize the hate, monetize your haters. We wouldn't have, we would have eventually, I think, but in the early Fandom Menace, I don't think we would have had the kind of grit, the kind of FU mentality that we had, because you're dealing with people who are mentally and emotionally unstable. Or trolls that just don't care. You're dealing with people that have disorders, that have issues. All right, they're sitting at home eating Haagen-Dazs, blowing up to 300 pounds, talking about my body is beautiful, cutting their kids' wieners off. You know what I mean? Like these are effed up people, and everything wrong with their life is because of someone else. It's a self-fulfilling system where. Ethan actually kind of gave us the leg up because he understood that behavior, that you can monetize your haters. You can create a channel. You can create a voice by throwing back the toxic energy that they're throwing at you. So, hail to Ethan. I mean, truth, real is real.
Well, he kind of went through the same thing with his, the big two that Gina did with Disney, except whereas he was forced out by being doxxed and all that kind of stuff, Gina was simply dismissed by Disney on a tweet. She didn't even get called in the office. They didn't slap her on the wrist. They were just like, yeah, Gina Carano is no longer working for us.
So some of these state, yeah, and you're right. Well, Ethan is a conservative, and he was basically kicked out. He's one of them too. And this is what I say about they'll eat their own, because he was one of them. He was one of those in my opinion, coiled. He was one of those toxic. He was one of the views expressions of Steve Walton did not reflect the mortal coil. He was one of those toxic people in the industry. He was one of them. But because he chose to endorse, believe in, whatever, however you want to put it, conservative values, and they were all far left progressives, they ate their own. They kicked him out. They doxed him. And I mean, to which, it added to Comicsgate and then that backlash of Fandom Menace and that backlash. So, to some degrees, that is an example of a narcissistic person, actually, because of his own need to be grandiose, actually adding a positive nature to a growing backlash or movement. Granted, it was selfish on his part, but it's still added a grit to people who were standing up, fans who were just like, why am I being called a racist because this movie sucks? You know, like, I don't understand this, you know? So, a couple more of these messages from the blue-haired weirdos on Twitter, and blue-haired weirdos was given to us by Van Sciver, by the way.
I think Garbage Tier Media was too.
Garbage Tier Media, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of good. He's a narcissist. He had some great cuts. Hell.
He's brilliant.
He was brilliant. Yes, he's not a dumb man. He's not. So it says, cry, Gina Carano, cry a little more, you transphobic bitch. I hope Disney fires your ass like WB fired Depp. All right? How'd that turn out?
Yeah.
So,
how's that going for you?
So she makes a statement about not going, you know, about the Nazis, what they were really about, and that it was like neighbors destroying, you know, the point that she made. And this person with a disorder comes out of nowhere with like, you cry more, you're transphobic. Where in the hell did she say anything about trans? You know what I mean? Like, it's all projection. Yep. You know, and then of course you can see that this person backed up Amber Heard, who is a narcissistic sociopath. That's
legally proven.
Amber Heard is a legally proven narcopath. Yes, I would tap that ass, but I would not give her my real name, and I would not get her anywhere near my bed. She could not go anywhere near my bed. But you know, I hope that Disney fires her ass like Warner Brothers fired Depp. You know, they don't care. You are a fucking racist, ugly fuck, Gina Carano. Counting votes isn't fraud. Shut the fuck up. You're dumb. What? It was all fraud. I don't even want to get into that. I'm not even getting it into the election of 2020. These are the types of. This is what Gina's going through here is exactly what the fans of Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, to this day, Lord of the Rings, and several others, the franchises. This is the attacks that they came under by people with personality disorders, toxic people who were supported by narcissistic people in Hollywood, sociopathic people in Hollywood. These were their flying monkeys. Point the finger. If you have all this hate and brokenness inside, blame this person. And that's all it was. I was fighting these people for years, Coyle. I've said this before. I'll just say it one more time. Like, I was fighting these people for years and didn't understand. I didn't understand why EVS did a snipe stream to Geeks and Gamers when the Snyder Cut thing happened. You know, I'm like, who does that? Who is that evil? How are you not thinking? Those are your friends. What are you doing? Because he's a narcissist. This is what narcissistic people do. This is what toxic people do. It doesn't matter what reality is. It doesn't matter what truth is. It doesn't matter what a person's message is. It doesn't matter what you're saying or doing. What matters is the selfish need for a toxic person to create havoc, strife, and chaos at any given point in time that they choose, most especially if they feel as though someone is better than them, if they feel they are more successful than them, if they're getting more shine than them, or if they feel like they have been slighted in some way, shape, or form, most especially, these types of toxic people will attack you relentlessly because of their own issues. And as Coyle said earlier, and as most narc abuse coaches say, no contact, don't even feed them. Yeah. You know, that's mostly the way to go, unless you've got to go on a rant because they threaten your life and clown the living shit out of them, for several weeks. Until you pet them on the head to say good boy, then they go back and try and start reporting all your videos. But that's a whole nother topic. Oh, dude, frankly, Coyle, I got some stories to tell you later. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if Disney had like a whole call center full of people who just like, get on X or Twitter or whatever the fuck it's called now, and just sit there and reply to tweets. Each of them have like 5 or 6 different accounts they can change in between, and they all have the same like non-picture and 0 followers, and and they just go and beat up on people who are critical of Disney or its product.
Yeah, those shit. Let's go back to the chat real quick and say hi, because it stopped on me for a minute, guys. I'm sorry, I just got the feed now, all the way through. So let's see. One Man Show says, yes, I remain in awe of Steven's tarot talents. Thanks, asshole. Appreciate you. I'm making a short just for you tomorrow. CJ says, Grays have been here to keep us from destroying ourselves, though, aren't they?
No, the Greys were here because they're a dying race. They have experienced replicative fading of their genome, so they came to try to restock themselves using our genes. We're a combination of just about 24 different ET races, including a native Terran simian primate, essentially. So the Greys thought that if they came and changed around how they did things, that they could, number one, artificially bond spirit to a genome that wasn't intended to have spirit bonded to it, but to kind of infuse their AI creation into it as well. The true incarnate Greys, they're really tall. They're probably like 7 feet tallish, somewhere like there, but they only number in about 100,000. And as soon as they're done, they're done. The little robots, the short little guys that you're seeing, they're like AI. They're like bio.
They're the grapey ones.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones. They're the worker class. So that whole like idea, like I said, the feudal system where there's like serfs and then there's lords and ladies and then there's dukes and all that kind of stuff. That is straight up Orion group thinking, and that's what the Greys are. At least those Greys. Now there are beings who appear to be Greys, but they're not Greys. That's a whole different topic. But we're talking about the ones that are malign to human progress and who operate on fear and under Alpha Draconis, under Orion, all that kind of stuff.
You want to shove probes up your butt and dress in leather and chains. It's like the cosmic blue oyster, but they're really aggressive. And
think of a race of mules, a race of asses. That's kind of funny to think of them this way. They can't.
Of asses.
They can't breed. So what happens? What happens to the race of asses? They
have ass babies.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're trying to make ass babies, but you can't take a mule and then take a zebra or an elephant and try to make something that's viable. It's not going to go together.
Lady Virgo says, short little effing troll, Fauci. Yeah, it's amazing.
That was a pretty good
guy
impression, Steven.
How many people did this guy kill in the 80s with the AIDS vaccine? And then they're going to promote, and then this is if you be quiet about all the kid peddling that goes on in politics and in Hollywood and entertainment, then you can make billions just killing people. It's all good, and be a hero for it. It's insane.
Yeah,
it is insane.
Their business.
It is, and destroying children. Let's see. CJ says, funny because those losers were left-wingers in 2 of those years, and left-wingers who defended slavery and KKK leftists who formed the German Party. Let's not talk about the Democratic National Convention of 1924, and let's not talk about the Obama White House of 2010 or 2012. All right, both those Democrats had racists in the White House. All right. And look, I voted Dem all my life. I voted Republican once. That's it. No, twice. I voted Republican twice, and that's it. And they were both for Trump.
As long as we're talking about politics.
One. Only once. It was only once.
Well, Kennedy was perhaps the last real president, and Kennedy was a Democrat. But if you put Kennedy in today's political climate, he would be a conservative.
Yeah. You put George Carlin on stage today, they would call him a racist, sexist, conservative, Trump supporter, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
he'd be canceled. But I mean, that's the thing is, Kennedy stood up for truth. He actually knew the truth about the cabal and the black budget projects and all that.
A military-industrial complex.
Yeah. He disbanded the CIA. He was prepared to come forward and come public, and they shot him in Dallas in November. Yeah.
I says, yeah. That's a whole other. We can talk about that another time, actually. I guess narcissists and politics. Zach says, here's a deep cut Pedro Pascal fact. His family were the ruling class in Chile in the 70s. President Aldine, Pedro's cousin, F things up so bad. I already said fucked. Why did I correct myself? Things up so bad that Augusto Pinochet rolled in and took over. You could take Pedro's family portrait and add it to the list of losers. But he's a winner in America. He's a winner in modern America, where you can, make comparisons that are completely abhorrent and make no sense. As long as you're pointing the...
It's a good thing Papa Pascal knew people.
Yeah, right. Papa Pascal knew people. And peddling, he's not going to, whether he is a child diddler or not, he's not going to expose the ones that are. Johnny Depp was wrecked by his covert narcissist sociopath or ex-wife. I had some experiences with at the exact same time. I dealt with an Amber Heard. I know I dealt with the same type, and I understand, Scott. I am glad that the Depp case brought some kind of information. It brought some attention to the forefront about covert narcissistic women and how they're pretty, they can talk a good game, but they're selfish, evil, destructive, lying, smearing, and they'll shit in your bed. All right? You find one that shits in your bed. Scott, my ex didn't shit in my bed, but I'm saying, if I'd stayed with her longer, who knows? Like the last time she hoovered, I didn't let her near my bed. So Virgo says, I gave the soon ex-husband fake zero energy, no eye contact in court, no words. Good for you, Lady Virgo. He doesn't deserve it. Let the lawyers speak. Keep all your receipts. Narcissists will expose themselves. They're no matter how smart they are all driven by the need to protect their fragile ego. They are all driven by a selfish need to project, to get over on you just for being you. You couldn't even have done, you might not have even done anything. You slighted them with your existence. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, they're Riris. So remember to keep your emotions on lock, your responses, be observant, and any opportunity that narc gives you to prove them wrong, do it. They hate it. Yeah, man, there's Deborah out there. Hail, sisters. My sisters out there, my fellow survivors and thrivers. Shaka Khan says, the left today, hail, brother, good to see you. The left today is the left of tomorrow along with their kids. Add in the illegals, and there is a group that'll go along with UBLAN, the NWO, and something I can't pronounce. Sorry.
AI transhumanism.
AI transhumanism. Thank you. God, I couldn't. That was too many syllables. I'm an author, by the way. That was too many syllables.
That's okay, buddy. We can find people to proofread for you.
Yes, I need that. I so need that. Scott Clark says John Clark called out long before we all woke up. Yes. One Man Show says, I need to cook up an algorithm for they. It would make for a great business card. We are they. We are here to help because we care. Hail, brother. Do that shit. Any more than I missed? Okay. So the last thing I want to go into is the sexualization aspect. And I can't really go too heavy into it. That's why we need to go to Rumble so we can really get into it. I'm not going to talk about Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg's an asshole. But we're going to talk about Pando Lando, because the sexualization of children is something that has been it's one of the most disgusting aspects of the modern political structure, Western political structure, whether they're royals or not. The information's out there, guys. Don't trust Google. Go on the dark web. Go incognito. The information is out there. You will find pictures of a sitting president whipping an Asian underage woman up against a tree that was in his son's laptop. You will find stuff that's there that will show you just how disgusting these people are. And they cover up and they cover for one another, like, in these rings. That's why Hags is over in Greece. It's why certain people are killed. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. It's because the exposure would be frightening to know how many actors, producers, writers. Look what's going on with P. Diddy right now.
World leaders.
World leaders, royals, all of these that are involved in the trafficking of children. So the progressive far leftists, Hollywood TV, comics, all these things, this is why they have been pressing the bathroom debate issues. This is why they have been pressing, kids shows on Nickelodeon that are talking about, different types of relationships that we don't need to be talked about to a child. It is why there are certain schools that have been handing out pamphlets. I got in Cali. Thank God they stopped doing it. The people finally got the school board fired, but they were handing out pamphlets explaining how to help your friend masturbate in grade school. Like this. The sexualization of children is to make them more accessible to perverts. This is why we are going to have a generation of damaged kids, especially from this whole transgender debate. This whole, putting kids through hormone therapy, putting growing children through hormone therapy. This stuff really gets me pissed off. Sorry, guys. Go ahead, Cole. Go ahead.
Well, there's a couple things that I want to touch on. Number one, energetically, the value of a virgin is because their fields are untouched. Okay, your lower chakra goes through a change the moment that you introduce sexual energy to it. These people not only hurt children, but they ritualize it because that's what they've been taught to do. More gruesome aspects involve ritual sacrifice and devouring of flesh, that kind of thing. There are millions of kids who go missing and just disappear for very nefarious acts. And truthfully, in an energetic sense, their energy fields are being siphoned off. The best case for those people like that, they end up basically becoming slaves. Some of them are tortured to the point of near death, and as a spirit exits, they can insert a different spirit, and then you have a walking robot, essentially. This is all taught behavior. This is a sick religion that was taught to them by non-human entities. It's very disgusting.
And it's kind of along the same lines. I know that you guys on my Dragonstorm channel, you hear me say like narcissists are demons. And my theory on that is when you live in negative karma for so long, when you create so much pain, you dismiss your, no accountability, you live in those cycles of destroying people, that you cut off your connection to source. You cut off with the light in your soul, and it allows for dark entities or demons to attach themselves to you, and then eventually you become that darkness. And it's along those same lines. When enough pain and strife, when enough abuse, when enough darkness is dark energy is being recycled over and over again, especially into an extreme, whether it's a person being abused or it is an abuser, then eventually they become susceptible to possession from demonic spirits, demonic forces, and that's kind of where. That's where the gold juice comes from. That's how they get the gold juice out of kids. Scare the living shit out of, because it's the essence of their soul. Yep. It's pretty pitiful. Anyway, so but you're right about the root low. Right, a person in development does not need to have their genes modified, does not need to have their hormones modified, does not need to be touched, used, peddled, passed around, because you are introducing an element of energy, a base chakra, sexual energy, into a growing being, and you are perverting it. You're distorting it. It is abuse. It's absolutely abuse.
Yeah, it affects the rest of their lives. I mean, there's another nefarious tangent to that, is that if we convince kids that they should take hormones and mutilate their genitals, I mean, aside from the energetic damage that it does, it essentially neuters them. And that's, like I said before earlier in the program, the amount of human biomass on the planet is a problem for the powers that were. There's just simply too many of us for them to overtly do what they want to do. So they have to do it by convincing us to do their work for them. And brainwashing the masses is part of that. Thankfully, we're waking up to it, and we're starting to tell these people to go and kick rocks,
True that, but it's going to be a hard fought battle at this point, because
it's probably going to take another 50 or so years before it's like fully realized. But that's within our lifetime and within our children's lifetime. So
So, going into talking about the sexualization of children, getting them into adult topics, we have this event which took place during the Solo movie. And this, what a pansexual Lando Calrissian reveals about the evolution of Star Wars. First off, Star Wars doesn't need pansexuals in it. What does pansexuality have anything to do whatsoever with Star Wars? Nothing. There's nothing.
Nope.
And then what they're doing is they're taking an established actor, one of the best actors, of the original cast, Lando Calrissian, very popular character, another scoundrel turned hero story, which is great. Also, someone who was an actor who was very influential in black cinema during the 70s and 80s, and they're taking this character and making him bang robots. Right. And this is for kids, by the way. Star Wars is for kids. Another argument that was always given to us was Star Wars is for kids. Is there space wizards with laser swords? Why? Why are these neckbeard man babies upset that we're turning? Why are you upset that we're taking your characters and neutering and distorting them and destroying them and repurposing them? So this is another. Okay, so you have the actor who played Lando Calrissian in Solo was Donald Glover. We call him Dong Lover for short. Dong Lover is a musician and an actor. If you listen to his music, it's all about he's a racist. It's all about killing white people and being racist. It's not a positive message. He's, I don't know if he was diddled or diddling, but I bet he's in that crew. That's just my personal opinion. But he was asked by the Huffington Post, trash garbage tier website, Huffington Post.
One of the worst.
So he was asked, there's a fluidity to Donald and Billy Lee's portrayal of Lando's sexuality. Jonathan Kasdan told HuffPost. Jonathan Kasdan, by the way, is a pervert.
He's a weirdo. Yeah.
He is a weirdo. Yeah, he's a hater. He hates fans.
He's riding on Daddy's coattails. That's
absolutely, really yeah. Empire Strikes Back, one of the greatest fucking films ever.
Yeah. Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the greatest films ever.
Yeah. So Jonathan Kasdan, who's the guy who wrote the film, he says, yes, when we asked if Lando was pansexual, I would have loved to have gotten a more explicitly LGBT character into this movie. I think that it's time, certainly, for that. But I love the fluidity, sort of the spectrum of sexuality that Donald appeals to and that the droids are a part of. Literally banging his robots. That was the most important topic to Jonathan Kasdan. Dong Lover loved the idea. They were more worried about droid rights, literally trying to shoehorn feminism, fourth wave feminism, through a robot, while this robot's getting banged by Lando Calrissian. And this is for kids. Mind you, their statement, their position. This is for children.
Is there anything in Empire Strikes Back that makes you believe that he's Pando at all?
No, he was hitting on Leia. He was a regular black man hitting on a white woman.
But everybody would like you to believe that he was hitting on Lobot too.
Lobot. Yeah, who knows? Lobot was his best. Hey, if he got a handy from the robot guy, I'm not. I don't want to know about it.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan Kasdan would have you believe that Lando was pegged or something. There's like a little button on his remote that makes the flag go full mast.
Right. It's not just gay bikers in Smyrna, Delaware. It's also in space in the Falcon.
Right.
The
Spice Run.
The Spice Run, yeah. This is crazy. No, but these are the crazy arguments. These are perverts. These are sexual deviants, Luciferian deviants in Disney. Who, we can go into Disney all day long. They got a long laundry list. While I was living in Florida, over 50 people were arrested who worked at Disney for being a part of a child sex ring. Yep. This is the culture of Hollywood. This is if you're not a part of it, you're not going to hit the stratosphere. It's a very rare case that if you're not a part of their deviance, their deviant circles, and their Moloch worshiping, whatever the hell they're doing, if you're not drinking the gold juice, if you're not a progressive, an extremist progressive, then that you'll actually make it. And one of their goals has, and will be until we stop this shit, these toxic, child abusing, narcissistic people, using these shows, using movies, using film, it doesn't matter what age range they're for, if they can direct them at kids, they're going to give subtle sexual or overt sexual messaging to children. Yep. To make them more accessible to the pervert in the proverbial white van.
Well, we were talking about the Nazi minister of propaganda. Do you remember the Hitler Youth? It's the same idea. If we get them when they're young, then by the time they grow up, that's what they're going to believe. And
like Sunday school.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
You're all right.
I came out the broom closet. Let me tuck it back in. My bad.
You did, yeah. Take your pointy hat off, Steve.
Your rocks and your crystals. Get the fuck out of here.
Right, your magic wand. But the last point I was going to make is it's evidenced on college campuses where they have all the fucking weirdos, with the bullhorns and their, there's enough people on YouTube pointing them out that you guys probably know what I'm talking about. It's the same idea. You indoctrinate them while they're being educated, especially in the early education phase. They don't know any different. They trust their teacher because we sent them to school to be with these people. But just like the weirdos invaded HR and just like they invaded comics and all that stuff, they invaded the education system too. They
absolutely did.
Yeah, they have drag queens come and do, like twerking shows in front of tiny children. And I'm not shitting on drag queens, and if you like drag shows, that's fine. But kids,
don't bring it to kids.
Yeah, kids who don't know any better can't make any judgment calls on that. And it's just the same thing as with molestation. If you introduce molestation at a young enough age, the kid's not going to know. It's just going to know that its body feels good. And then pretty soon you've raised a sideways person, and that's exactly what they want us all to be. But that's where self-responsibility and taking care of yourself is one thing, but if you think your children are your seed, that's your future, that's your last name walking around, that's like half your genome walking around, you're going to let some fucking weirdos at school rewire your kids on an energetic level and then teach them to think in different ways and then to not consult their parents about what's even going on at school. Nah, I don't even send my kid to public school. I do not have any interest in doing that. And I live on the West Coast, so that stuff happens.
Man, thank God's bless you for where you're at living. I tried to bang a chick from out where you're living, and she was hot. She had hot fake titties. But man, she was a nut job. Why do you have a Let's Go Brandon video on your channel? Are you serious? Because it's funny. It's a cognitive dissonance. The cognitive dissonance involved in the whole Let's Go Brandon thing was great.
The fact they got him to say it too.
Yeah, right. The dude knows damn well they're saying F Joe Biden.
No, and I said this last night on the live stream. I really believe Joe Biden, the one that they publicly put out, is either a clone or like organic AI. You pick one of them. He's just too mentally not there. He's too senile. He's too broken. I swear I saw a video where there was a woman working him like a puppet on the White House balcony.
I believe it. I can't. I am so disappointed in my country since 2020, since all of it. I'm so disappointed in my country, and it's not just that like the guy that I wanted to win didn't win. It's not that. It's just all of the smearing, gaslighting, all of the fake news, all of the the falsehoods that were promoted, all of it, like an election literally, I'm sorry, it was stolen right in front of our face. Right in front. They go, let's just shut down. Well, someone's getting ahead. Let's shut down the office. Oh, a pipe broke. Let's shut down this. You know what I mean? Let's take the counters, the people that keep it fair out of the room. It was, right. And
bunches of ballots at the last minute.
At the last minute, right.
Let's bring over millions of people from outside the country and give them voting rights, and let's give them free money and free housing, and just remember to vote blue.
Don't think that's going to work in their favor. We can talk about that another day. But the people that it's not okay. Basically, the people that are coming here illegally are not families and shit. All right, they're gang members and they're fucking. You know what I mean? Like they're people that are here to do good things. They're infiltrating. But let's just say half. Let's just say half. Half of them are just families coming from down south. They're all Catholic and conservative. I don't think it's going to work out in their favor. I don't think that's going to work out how they think it is. Real quick, Shaka Khan, he says, an antichrist spirit is taking over humanity one at a time. In groups too, brother. That type of evil, in groups, absolutely. And the media has a lot to do with that, the blanketing of information, the hiding of it. I think we've talked about quite a few different evil types tonight that are millionaires, making money, spreading horrible messages, and diddling kids.
Yeah. So protect yourself and do not tolerate that within your sphere. You are sovereign. Stand up on yourself. Do not capitulate to an outside authority ever, ever, ever. Okay.
Real quick, I see Jessica's in the chat, and thank you to everybody who's talking to her. Deborah, Lady Virgo, thank you very much. We are here to help heal one another. Hail to you, sister. Thank you so much for being here, honey. I'm sorry I can't read through everything, but I will look at it after the show. Thank you, baby. And thank you to all my sisters out there helping out, man. We rise together. There was one thing. Oh, yeah. Scott said, has anyone else seen a demonically possessed person's eyes turn black in narcissistic rage a while after the love bombing is over? I didn't see the black eyes. My ex-sociopath, her eyes would get glassy, like watery, glassy, happy, like when she knew that she had total control over me, when she knew that I was broken and like, oh my God, what are you doing, before she ghosted me to go screw somebody else or made up an excuse or whatever it was, she would be full of glee. That's the only way to explain it. Like happy as fuck. Like I have total control over this person. I can destroy him at a whim. He is broken. I can leave him here with a kiss and go bang somebody else, and he'll be here when I get back. That's how she got. As far as like the black eyes, I've heard about the black eyes from narcissistic rage a lot. And absolutely, I believe it. I'm a spiritualist who has walked many roads. And I understand the complexities of our spirits and our abilities to commune, work with, and in conjunction with other forces, with other spiritual forces. And I have seen people change physically. There's a video I put back a while back. I wish I could remember the name of it. There's a video I put back a while back where I did it myself. When I'm full of energy, when I'm full of positive energy, my eyes will get cat-like. I'll bring up the video at some point in the future. I'll find it. I said, dude, Coyle, I sent it to you when I sent it to Scott. I was like, Scott, what is wrong with this video? And he says, your eyes look like cat eyes. I said, that's the reptilian. That's the black. That's the dragon in me. Yeah. But yes, that absolutely can happen, and it's a mystic practice, and we're all capable of it, which is, for my experience, another reason why, if you were highly intuitive, even if you're just if you're just an average Joe, I know I'm not trying to dismiss anybody, but like most especially if you're a highly intuitive or highly have energetic ability, that you protect your portals, you protect your chakral portals, your energy. It is important, right? It is why when you are in a narcissistic relationship and you're around them, lights flicker, things happen out of nowhere. Like my kitchen caught fire when I had Narcase over last time. Like that, these things happen because of the negative forces that a narcissist has. They're possessed. There are little evil spirits or looking over their shoulder, eating popcorn, looking for the Jerry Springer show. And they will make things happen if they are around angelic forces, guardian spirits, ancestors that are trying to protect you. They will create conflict. It's a negative and positive force, coming head to head. All of these things. This is one of the reasons why for Dragonstorm I talk about narcissistic abuse recovery and awareness from a spiritual perspective, because this is just as valid as the physical and mental rigors that you go through when you are being, manipulated and abused by someone who's practiced at it. Mm-hmm. The spiritual aspect's very important. So yeah, I totally believe anybody who's told me those stories. I can morph too. There are positive. There's across a range, positive, neutral, and negative. And when a narcissist does that, that's a more negative. It's a negative morph.
Well, real fast, I do want to get into the energetic component for a second.
Sure, please.
I sent Steven, and I think we even showed it on a previous broadcast. But the thing that you also need to understand is that narcissists cannot sustain themselves of their own energy. They always attempt to sap it from somebody else. They have blocked their connection to the universe, so they cannot use the ambient universal chi or orgone or whatever you want to fucking call it. They have to siphon it from somebody else. So yeah, that it's no wonder that you feel that like sucking feeling coming from them when they're around.
Energy vampires.
Yeah. Now I see auras, and I'm also an empath, and I can feel vibes and all that kind of stuff. And I was one of the people that when I first just saw a picture of her eyes, I was like, Steven, no. And he's like, buddy, I love her. And I was like, all right, man. So
suffer no fools until you're prepared to be a loyal one.
Well, you gotta let the kids grab the pan to know the fire is hot sometimes. So
I stuck my dick in that pan.
Yeah. I mean, you made some fried sausage, but it's one of those things. I knew that we'd at some point I was like, okay, he's gonna figure it out. He's gonna take the long road on this one, and then when he's done with it, I'll be his buddy when he gets out of it. And, I gave him a piece of my mind, of course, but obviously it's okay because now we're on our way to becoming the best show ever. So
yes, we are. Absolutely.
Pair of shows ever. We're basically taking over the weekend.
and other people did that too. Like Scotty, like Sporky News Podcast, guys, please subscribe to Sporking. He saw it. He was like, yeah, Steve's taking the long road. I can't do anything. And the thing about, with Narc X, the thing, like she could, first off, she knew that you saw her. So her first move was to blame you or suspect you of hacking into her phone and her computer. You're a hacktivist. And this is that dude. That's something that she uses over and over again. Like the last time she was here, it was pitiful. That Hoover was pitiful. She's got the phone down, and she's already got it set up that she's going to ghost me to go run to $3 bill. Like it's already like, I know this. I've been through this cycle before. I called it days before. Yeah. And so she's got her phone out. She's like, did you see that? Did you see that? I'm like, what? It went on airplane mode and then went off for a second. And I'm just like, it is so pitiful. I didn't even acknowledge it. I was like, you've been playing this game with me forever. She had a file on her computer when I was at her apartment when she still had it. That had a bunch of pictures of what Bill does, because he works at this warehouse in Wilmington and steals bulk batteries and sells them on the black market. So she had that along with, so he had that along with a bunch of avatars and clips and stuff from my channel. And she was like, what's going on here? I never made this folder. What's this? I don't know. She was all fucked up on meth. She was high as shit that night. And I was like,
makes you paranoid, number one, but it's like your friends have nothing to do but sit around and try to see what's on her phone. That's a ridiculous waste of time.
Right. Well, and what is projection? It's to create suspicion. Well, she's a woman who loves to create conflict among men. She sleeps with everybody, swears she's not, but she is. And then while she's doing that, she tries to make them, through love bombs them, tries to make them fall in love, plays the wounded routine, and then will triangulate and make everyone fight against one another. And then when she gets caught, she just laughs it off. So the sociopath comes out, and she's just like, ha, 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 ha. She just doesn't care. Like,
hey, Steven, do you want to make $1 million? Let's make a dick Lysol. Let's make that a thing.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. We'll call it Trashley's Blend. All right. So Scott says, the scariest moment of my life, that black-eyed narcissistic rage. I felt fear in every fiber of my being. Thank you, Deborah and Jessica. Be safe. Yeah, hailed my sisters. I believe that is evidence of demonic possession. It absolutely is. You can't work in those you can't be even if you are a practiced voodoo or a dark necromancer, when you work in those dark forces, there are containments and protections that you have to have all the time. Like it's a part of your culture, the way you live, the way you breathe, in order to protect yourself from the dark forces that you are summoning around you. Especially if you're a summoner. Oh, well, you have to have containment spells. But narcissists, if they're let's just say your average narcissist, they don't do those things. They're reckless. They always think they're grandiose. They always think they're better. They're not even concerned with that. Yes, absolutely. They get to a certain age and their connection with source has been cut off. With spirit is gone. And they have left themselves open to be possessed by demonic forces. And I heard a yawn, and we do need to shut it down because he has work in the morning.
I should have muted that. I'm sorry.
No.
I find this very, very fascinating and highly invigorating. But
I felt it. I've been sensing it for like 2 minutes, but we have a great chat, a wonderful chat. And thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much. Let's see. Okay. Let me see. Anybody else? Steven, one last thing. My latest song is called Vampires. It's about the narcissist. I'll send you a link to the SoundCloud. Email lodonis@hotmail.com, Scott. Send that to me. I might use it in the video if you let me, like if I got your permission, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. I love musicians. Support your independent creators out there. Before we head out, I would like to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Jessica, Deborah, Lady Virgo. Thank you to Scott. Thank you to Bone, who's dude. Bone,
you've been in the house. He is a soldier as well, man. Love that guy.
Dude, old school TFM in the chat since I first started doing narc abuse recovery and awareness. Been supportive of me. Thank you so much, dude. RR, hail brother, hail the chat. Thank you to Snowdub for stopping by earlier. Hail Trans Fat. Thank you to Shaka Khan. Thank you to everybody lurking. Thank you to One Man Show. Thank you to Zax. Thank you to CJH, Riff Magos. Hail brother, good to see you, dude. And I think I caught up with her. And Nikki Red, hail sister. Yeah. We suffer no fools.
And everybody listening on repeat. Remember to ding the bell and hit subscribe and share this out. You know, you guys are the ones that are keeping us alive. Send this to your friends. Send this to open-minded people. Hell, send this to people who you don't even like. I don't care.
It's the people you don't even like. Mortal Coil, please do your outro, brother. Tell them where they can find you.
Yes, sir. Well, you are listening to the voice of Immortal Coil. Revolution is my name. You can find me on my channel. Steven's going to link it in the description. Most of it is shorts. There's a couple of really good videos where I'm trying to get some thought-provoking stuff out of AI. I have some projects down the pike, but the big bread and butter is going to be the live streams. So for those of you who are really into the kind of far out stuff that I was talking, I go into much more detail in our live streams. You can join us Saturday, 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bridge the gap from Saturday to Sunday, and then I guess we're basically taking over the weekend now, aren't we, Steven? And then we'll do this on Sundays. So you got your Savage, Sage kind of weekend block lined up, which is sorely needed. You know, we're basically just telling the truth and spreading the light throughout the world. I'm open to questions. Like I'm saying, I have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't ask me about it, then I don't know to necessarily design shows around it. Otherwise, it just turns into me and Steven BSing for an hour or so. But yeah, check it out. Give me a follow. I'm on the road to monetization. I still need about 1,400 watch hours. So as you're climbing through those live videos, or if you're not even just doing anything, you can open up a tab and mute my ass. Just help me get there. Help me get monetized. I've been at this game as long as Steven has, and I just haven't been monetized. Some of that's my fault, but some of it's due to algorithm and all that kind of stuff. And some of it has to do with what I talk about. You know, I started off doing entertainment stuff. Now I'm talking about, you know, spirituality and awakening the human potential and ETs and, you know, extra dimensions and all this kind of stuff. It's not your everyday garden variety kind of show. It's a lot more. If you like Art Bill, you'll like me. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate the super chats. That definitely helps. And the fact that you were so passionate about having those questions answered that you actually paid the channel money to get into that. That was some good stuff. I want to say hail to my savage friends. You guys know who you are. Come join me and let's change the frequency of this fucker.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Hail to all my brothers and sisters out there. Thank you so much for being here. Hail to the chat. Please remember to support your favorite content creators, supporting independent voices, independent content creators, whether they are making comics, whether they're making books, if they have a channel, a podcast. It is so very important in today's age where we have a blanketed media that is constantly telling us lies, constantly trying to force you into making decisions, into seeing the world as it is not. So please support your independent creators. They mean everything. We do not kneel here. Thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate you. And please remember, I am author Stephen Walton, the Fandom Menace Historian, your historian, born in the chats of the High Council with my brothers and sisters, fighting for our modern mythologies. Wash your hands, wash your ass, be good to each other, yet suffer no fools. Peace!
When you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show. And when you're born in America, you're given a front row seat.
Seriously, washing your ass is a good practice, and your hands. That's just, please, just do it. Just wash your ass. Just